Chapter 2044. Besides the 9 revolutions Divine Star Art, there was another reason why the Divine Star Academy was named after the Divine Star Academy. There was a real Divine Star in the Academy. It was a fragment of the Divine Star Academy that had been forcefully smashed down by a Tao monarch. It was also this fragment that had formed the most terrifying and most promising cultivation ground in the Divine Star Academy. As soon as he entered the sacred grounds, Yi Fei immediately felt an intense pressure from the stars, causing the surrounding space to distort and distort. The laws of the celestial realm were too strong, and as the starry sky of the celestial realm, the power of the stars was even stronger. As soon as he stepped in, Yi Fei felt a terrifying pressure rush towards him. This was a pressure comparable to the Lord of Heaven's stars, and this was only the outermost region of the celestial venerate region. In the innermost region was the sovereign region, and only the Lord of Heaven, Ren Tianxing, could approach the Lord of Heaven's region. That was where the fragments of the Divine Star were stored. At this time, Jiangzhen had already stepped into the sovereign region of the strongest cultivation ground. Yi Fei even saw a group of the most elite sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy, silently cultivating there. Yi Fei also didn't choose the sovereign region. Instead, after adapting to the pressure of the stars, he directly stepped into the sovereign region. Boom! The pressure on his body instantly increased tenfold. The surrounding space and Xian Qi were like invisible mountains that continuously pressed down on Yi Fei, causing Yi Fei to groan. His body swayed, and he actually showed signs of retreating. A nearby sovereign teacher couldn't bear to see this. He shook his head and said, "Young man, go back. You're still young. It's still too early for you to step into the sovereign region." "It's not early. If I don't step in now, I might not have another chance in the future." Yi Fei smiled faintly. He had killed King Qi, even though it was King Qi who wanted to kill him first. However, the coldness of the royal family didn't care about right or wrong. They only cared about life and death. Now that King Qi was dead, even if Ren Tianxing covered it up and didn't spread the news, it didn't mean that the royal family would let him go. Therefore, Yi Fei had to use this precious time to become stronger and obtain more combat strength. He didn't turn back. He gritted his teeth and continued forward. The deeper he went, the more terrifying the pressure of the Divine Star fragment was. Kacha kacha. As Yi Fei walked, the space around him cracked. Yi Fei was forcefully using his own body was forcibly breaking through the pressure. Yi Fei, and rubbed his eyes. Jiangzhen had once told him that the closer one was to the Divine Star, the more power one could absorb from the stars of the celestial realm. If he touched the Divine Star, not only would he obtain a large amount of star power, but he would also have the opportunity to come into contact with the origin source of heaven and earth. Yi Fei didn't want to give up on this opportunity. Therefore, he continued forward. His actions shocked many other rulers. "He's crazy. Guest Elder Yi is crazy. He isn't even a ruler. How dare he enter the Divine Star's territory?" No, Yi Fei isn't crazy. He's probably like senior brother Dutian. His physical strength alone is close to 50,000 kilos. This kind of strength is enough for him to withstand the pure pressure of the stars, said Jiangzhen. He was also cultivating here. However, given his strength, he could only get close to the Divine Star's territory. He couldn't enter it. Now, Jiangzhen placed all his hopes on Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, you can do it. I believe that Senior Brother Dutian was able to walk in. You can do it too. Senior Jiangzhen, don't worry. If Senior Dutian can do it, I can do it too. If he can't do it, I can do it too." Yi Fei smiled. He suddenly lifted his foot and stepped into the territory of the Divine Star's territory. Boom! A pressure comparable to the Divine Stars came crashing down. Boundless star power was drawn in by the nearby Divine Star fragment. It crashed down on Yi Fei like a tidal wave, causing Yi Fei's face to turn pale. He also felt intense pain throughout his body. However, Yi Fei didn't stop. He activated his Supreme Divine Body and activated his Battle Shaman Body. 1 step, 2 steps, 10 steps, 100 steps. Under the horrified gazes of many rulers, including Jiangzhen, Yi Fei actually walked 100 steps into the Divine Star's territory. Freak. Terrifying. Even Chen Dutian was only able to walk 100 steps back then. And that was with the cultivation of a late-stage Empyrean. This kid is crazy, hiss hiss. The rulers who were discussing this sucked in a breath of cold air. After Yi Fei walked 100 steps and stopped for a few breaths, Yi Fei's body suddenly shook. His entire body emitted an inexplicable sword aura. With this layer of sword aura, Yi Fei lifted his foot and stepped down again. He actually took another step forward. Then 2 steps, 3 steps, 10 steps, 100 steps. The closer he got to the mountain-sized divine star fragment, the more terrifying the surrounding star pressure became. However, Yi Fei didn't stop. He continued to walk forward. Within the heavenly palace, the undying sword's soul emitted an intense black-gold light. He was happily absorbing the power of the stars around him. That's right, the undying sword's soul was that domineering. As long as it was energy, the undying sword's soul could absorb it. This kind of energy, of course, included the star power of the heavenly realm. It was also because of this ability of the undying sword's soul that Yi Fei mustered up his courage. After taking 100 steps, he continued to take another 100 steps. The group of rulers outside were shocked. Jiangzhen was so shocked that his eyes widened. Of course, even though the undying sword's soul was absorbing the power of the stars, the pressure of the stars around the divine planet was too terrifying. Yi Fei could only take another 100 steps before he reached his limit. Then, he sat down in the lotus position closest to the divine planet fragment. He opened the treasure that the heavenly Empyrean had left for him. The last treasure was a pitch-black metal box. Inside the box was a cultivation technique written on special beast skin. The follow-up to the Path of Despair, Golden Body of Laws. Yi Fei's eyes widened. The Path of Despair actually has a follow-up technique. That's right, the Path of Despair was originally brought from the heavenly realm to the earth realm by Heavenly Empyrean Lord of Darkness. The strongest thing in the heavenly realm isn't martial arts, but divine abilities. Since that's the case, it's not strange that the Path of Despair has a follow-up divine ability. Chapter 2045. Time passed quickly. A month had passed since Yi Fei had entered the most powerful training ground. It was also during this month that Qizhen Pavilion suddenly announced that they would be loyal to the royal family. This news shocked many of the clans and sects who had been observing the situation. Qizhen Pavilion was the largest trading company in the Tianhe Kingdom, and its wealth was comparable to that of a country. No one would have thought that such a huge force would be the property of the royal family. However, this also explained why the imperial family was still able to produce new heavenly lords despite the fact that the imperial family's treasury was depleted every year. It was obvious that King Qi and the Qizhen Pavilion were fully supporting the imperial family. Qizhen Pavilion's real name was Qizhen Pavilion. It was the name of Qizhen by Qizhen. Qizhen Pavilion's death had brought Qizhen Pavilion from behind the scenes to the front stage. Yi Fei didn't know that after he had ruined the royal family's hunt, he had once again unintentionally ruined the royal family's plans. On the royal family's death list, Yi Fei's name was already very high up. Reset. But even so, the royal family still had no intention of making a move. The entire royal family was eerily quiet this month. The gates were still tightly shut. Large numbers of soldiers loyal to the royal family, or those who had been bought over by Qizhen Pavilion, were quietly gathering from all over the Tianhe Kingdom. Many of the once glorious 5th and 6th rank clans were being hunted down by the army and the royal family in various cities. The fortresses of the families were broken through one by one, and countless corpses were hung on the city walls. The once glorious families in the Milky Way kingdom had been destroyed. Even more clans chose to surrender and submit to the imperial family's sudden display of power. After that, these clans that had surrendered were forcefully organized into cannon fodder and miscellaneous soldiers. They silently rushed towards the imperial city. However, there would always be people who were unwilling to give up. Time and time again, they would send out death warriors to charge into the imperial city. They sent out a warning. Finally, after countless people had died, one of the rulers risked his life to break through the city walls and rush into the royal family's capital. Although he was quickly killed, there were many smart people in the royal family who understood the significance of the ruler's death. Unavoidably, the atmosphere in the royal capital was filled with the stench of blood, terror, and nervousness. Under such an oppressive atmosphere, all the clans and sects couldn't help but cast their gazes onto the Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy. This was also the only power in the Tianhe kingdom that could resist the royal family. Especially the Lin clan of the royal family. If it wasn't for the sudden rise of the royal family, the Lin clan might have replaced the royal family in a few decades. When they learned that the royal family had raised their butcher's knife, the entire Lin clan became nervous. A large number of the clan members were armed, and many 7th-rank clans who were unwilling to submit to the Lin clan's capital that were secretly contacted by the clan. The ancestor of the Lin family, Lord of Heaven Lin Xiong, was standing on the martial arts practice field of the Lin family. He was encouraging the more than 20 rank 6 and rank 7 clans who had secretly submitted to him. Everyone, we have plundered the imperial family too much in the past few hundred years. Even the princess of the imperial family did not have many decent treasures when she got married. Even if we surrender, only death awaits us. The only way out is for everyone to work together. Only if we unite can we survive. Yes, unite, we will listen to the Lord Lin clan. Also, the Lord Ren clan and the Divine Star Academy are also a great power. If the two Lords of Heaven join forces, we won't be afraid even if the royal family comes. Many of the clan leaders started to clamor. Lin Xiong's expression also changed, but when he thought of the current strength of the royal family, he hardened his resolve and looked towards Lin Qing and Lin Rong. The two of you, immediately bring Lin Chun and Lin Gui to the Divine Star Academy and personally apologize to Ren Tianxing and Yi Fei. Obediently, convey the goodwill of the Lin clan. What? Grandfather, you want us to apologize to Yi Fei? Lin Chen and Lin Gui's faces were ashen, as if they had eaten a fly. Lin Chen was the #1 genius of the Lin clan, but he was severely injured by Yi Fei in public. This made Lin Chen go crazy. Lin Gui was even more miserable. Not only did he become Yi Fei's scapegoat, he even had to piss his pants in public to save his life. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. It was already good enough that they didn't look for Yi Fei to settle the score. Now that the old ancestor wanted them to apologize to Yi Fei, Lin Chun and Lin Gui felt very sullen. Lin Qing and Lin Rong were more open-minded. They reminded in a low voice, "Whatever the old ancestor says, just do it. Is your face more important, or is the life and death of the Lin clan more important?" Lin Xiong also said coldly, "The only one who can deal with the Lord of Heaven is the Lord of Heaven. Ren Tianxing is a smart person. If he still wants to protect the Divine Star Academy, he will make the wisest choice. That is to join forces with me to overthrow the emperor and change the dynasty." It was just that Lin Xiong and the others who were discussing did not notice that while they were immersed in the frenzy of joining forces to force the emperor to abdicate, there were two pairs of cold eyes that were like wolves, coldly watching from the side. They were He Chun and Wang Zhongshan, and on Wang Zhongshan stood the skinny Wang Jian, who was as cold as a poisonous snake. Imperial City. King Lu's palace. He Wushwang stood nervously in front of King Lu, quickly reporting the events that happened in the Lin clan. "Your Highness King Lu, it's like this. I've been treated coldly by Lin Chen recently, so I'm unable to find out the details of the Lin clan's plans. However, the names of all the clans that participated in the rebellion are all here. He Wushuang took out a list of names and handed it to King Lu. King Lu was very satisfied and proud of himself. Family, he has done well. When the Lin clan is destroyed, I will make family he the #1 clan in the imperial city. However, Wushuang, since I've praised your family he so much, I wonder what you can do to repay me? Is that so? King Lu laughed sinisterly. He was originally a greedy and lustful person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had his third leg broken by Chen Dutian. Now that he saw He Wushuang, the Pearl of Li City, how could he let her go? How could He Wushuang not understand the meaning behind King Lu's words? In her mind, she couldn't help but think of Lin Chen's suave appearance and Yi Fei's wild and unrestrained behavior. Looking at King Lu's open belly and the layers of fat on it, she suddenly had the urge to vomit. But then, she thought of Lin Chen's coldness and the humiliation she, the Pearl of Li City, had suffered in the imperial city. Her beautiful eyes suddenly flashed with a venomous hatred. Yi Fei, Lin Chen, I've said it before. I'll make you regret it. He Wushuang, will do what I say. Suddenly, this once beautiful Pearl of Li City changed her appearance into a charming one. She took the initiative to walk towards King Lu. After a long time, He Wushuang wiped away her tears and leaned into King Lu's embrace. Her voice was filled with hatred as she spoke coquettishly to King Lu. Your Highness, I've already given you the information you wanted. I don't know when the imperial family will make their move to eradicate the Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy. I'm afraid that if we continue to endure, the Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy will join forces. The academies will join forces to force us to abdicate. Chapter 2046. Divine Light, Heavenly Corpses. After so many years, I have finally waited for this moment. From today onwards, the imperial family will regain control of the Heavenly River Kingdom. I will no longer have to steal any beauty I fancy. From now on, I will own her openly. Ah! King Lu laughed wantonly. It was as if he could already see the scene of him running amok in the imperial city and overflowing with power. When He Wushuang heard these words, her face turned deathly pale. Her eyes were filled with obvious remorse, but more than that, they were filled with deep shock and fear. They are actually heavenly corpses. It is said that only the Lord of the heavenly corpses could cultivate such termination energy. He Wushuang's voice trembled. King Lu's expression was filled with madness. That's right, these are heavenly corpses. They are the final trump card of the imperial family of the Heavenly River. 300 years ago, the Heavenly River imperial family declined because all the ghost generals our ancestors left for us died. However, the method our ancestors left for us to cultivate ghost generals is still with us. All these years, the imperial family has been enduring while secretly recruiting high-level spirit augmenters at all costs. We then used their blood and souls to enhance the termination energy. Finally, today, the 2 corpses of the Lord of Heaven that our imperial family obtained have successfully awakened corpse spirit. Corpse spirits. King Lu looked at the 2 divine lights above the imperial palace, his eyes filled with fervor. King Lu was not the only one who was in such a frenzy. Within the imperial palace, an old man dressed in royal robes was trying to break out of the sealed crystal coffin in a frenzy. Your Majesty! At the bottom of the stairs, the newly crowned Lord of Heaven, King Chu, was leading the experts the imperial family had recruited over the years to kneel down. Everything has been prepared. 2 heavenly corpses have been refined into corpse soldiers according to our ancestors' method. However, the 99 high-level spirit augmenters we recruited have exhausted their souls. Many of them have become crippled. The old emperor's voice was hoarse, but his eyes were colder than the corpses. Since they are crippled, there is no need to keep them alive. The secret of refining heavenly corpses must not be leaked. pass down my orders, kill all these crippled people and their families. I would rather kill 100,000 innocents than let them know. Let them spread the word. Yes, Your Majesty. King Chu retreated and suddenly ordered in a deep voice, Mengru, I'll leave this matter to you. As for King Qi, this king will personally avenge you. Behind King Chu were Madame Meng, Baida, and Bayer. Madame Meng gladly accepted the order, and went to kill all the high-grade spirit augmenters that she had personally recruited at great cost, as well as all their families. As for King Chu, he brought with him a heaven-shaking killing intent. He also had a successfully refined heavenly corpse ghost general with him. His majestic army directly charged towards the Divine Star Academy. Behind King Chu was King Lu. Many years ago, King Lu's third leg had been broken by Chun Dutian in the Divine Star Academy, and he had almost turned into a corpse. As a eunuch, he was a vengeful person. Now that there was an opportunity, he would not let it go. Along the way, there were two other family groups kneeling outside the imperial palace. The leaders were He Chun and Wang Zhongshan, and behind Wang Zhongshan stood Wang Jian, who looked like a poisonous snake. They were all people who had a grudge against Yi Fei. Now that the royal family wanted to attack the Divine Star Academy and regain their power, the He and Wang clan did not hesitate to betray the Lin clan. While King Chu was leading his army to the Divine Star Academy, the old emperor also brought another heavenly corpse ghost general and a large number of royal family elites to attack the Lin clan. Lin Xiong, you have bullied the royal family for hundreds of years. Today, I will kill your entire clan. Pass down the order, wash the Lin clan with blood, wash the imperial city with blood. Kill, kill, kill. The battle drums thundered. The light of the battle between the Lord of Heaven exploded in the sky above the Lin clan. The battle between the Lord of Heaven shocked the entire imperial city. The Divine Star Academy naturally sensed it as well. In the principal's area, Ren Tianqing took a bath and changed his clothes. He had changed into a brand new robe, and his white hair was neatly combed. Around him stood a large number of sovereign realm and heavenly venerable experts. Principal, the royal family is too ambitious. They actually secretly refined another heavenly corpse ghost general. This time, our Divine Star Academy is in danger. Let's surrender. A cowardly teacher spoke out in fear, but what he got in return was the angry glare of the other teachers. Escape? Where do we escape to? Now that the imperial city has been sealed and the royal family has refined a heavenly corpse ghost general, we can either fight to the death or escape. Please make a decision as soon as possible. Ren Tianqing shook his head solemnly and sighed. There is no need to say more. I have already decided to fight. From now on, if you wish to fight, follow me to battle. If you wish to surrender, you can go out and surrender now. Boom. Ren Tianqing's words spread throughout the entire Divine Star Academy, causing the originally terrified students to become even more terrified. After which, a large number of students ran out of the academy in fear. The majority of them were new students, and they didn't have a strong sense of belonging to the academy. However, there were also some old students who were afraid of death. There were even a few sovereign realm teachers who mixed in with the surrendering crowd. The spirit augmentation master Zhang Yu stumbled as he ran out, shouting loudly, "Surrender? King Chu, I am Zhang Yu. I was placed in the academy by the royal family. A hidden chess piece." Pooh! What answered Zhang Yu was an armor-piercing arrow personally shot out by Wang Jian. In an instant it pierced through Zhang Yu's head. This gave the other surrendering students a huge fright. King Chu, what is the meaning of this? We have already left the Divine Star Academy. We sincerely surrender. Humph, you want to surrender? Sure. This king will order you to kill your way back to the Divine Star Academy and kill all the traitors. King Lu walked out, his expression incomparably sinister. He actually wanted to use these surrendering students to attack the Divine Star Academy and then kill each other. The students and teachers who were prepared to surrender all widened their eyes in fear. No, how can we do this? We can't do it. Since you can't do it, then what use is there for the royal family to keep a bunch of trash like you? Since the termination energy of the royal family has run out, then I will use the corpses of trash like you to fill it up. Pass down my order, kill everyone in the Divine Star Academy, regardless of whether they surrender or not. Draw the bows, release the arrows. King Heshuan and King Zhongshan were in high spirit. They were the first to send out their clan's cultivators to raise their bows. Then, the royal family's army drew their bows. Only a terrifying buzzing sound could be heard. The entire sky above the Divine Star Academy was covered by a black rain of arrows. Those who had just betrayed the Divine Star Academy and were prepared to surrender fell one after another. They used their own corpses, their own blood and tears to tell the tale of the traitors. Chapter 2047. Then, a booming voice pierced through the deepest part of the Divine Star Academy. The war has begun. Jiangzhen Yifei, as the Lord of Heaven, I can no longer protect you. Hurry up and leave. Rumble. The booming voice formed a formless wind that pierced through the Divine Star Academy. It also startled Jiangzhen and Yifei, who were still immersed in their cultivation. The royal family has made their move so quickly? Yifei woke up from his cultivation of the golden body of laws. He had already broken through from the mid-heavenly venerable realm to the late heavenly venerable realm. He had even formed the first layer of the golden body of laws. However, Yifei wasn't happy. Instead, he was worried and shocked. This was because he had discovered that a huge crack had appeared on the Divine Star. Inside the crack was a Divine Star fragment that was enveloped by boundless star power. This is the Divine Star Academy's last resort, the Divine Star Meteorite. As long as you walk up and activate the power of the Divine Star, it will bring you out of the royal family's blockade and out of the Imperial City. When Rintianxing's roar shook the sacred mountain, all the star power in the Divine Star domain disappeared and gathered in the house-sized Divine Star fragment. This allowed the sovereigns in the sovereign region to finally get close to the Divine Star. However, none of them walked up to the Divine Star Academy. Instead, they took out various treasures and Xian veins and stuffed them into the Divine Star Academy. Suddenly, they said solemnly, "These are most of the resources of the Divine Star Academy. There are also various cultivation techniques and martial arts. The Divine Star Academy can be destroyed, but our legacy can't be broken. Yifei Jiangzhen, I beg you. You must fight your way out of here alive. Also, leave a spark for the Divine Star Academy." Jiangzhen's expression suddenly turned fearful. "Seventh martial uncle, third martial uncle, what do you mean? You won't leave with us?" Seventh martial uncle laughed. "Silly boy. We are either your martial uncles or your martial uncles. Even if we have to die, it should be us, the old ones, who die. Let the young ones live. Stop being so long-winded and scram. Out of sight, out of mind. Don't collect our corpses even if you die. Old friend, who will fight a bloody battle with me?" "Me! Me! And me." There were a total of 18 sovereigns who had stayed behind to cultivate. They were also the strongest group of sovereigns in the Divine Star Academy. Originally, they definitely had hopes of using the Divine Star Academy to break through the blockade of the royal capital and escape with their lives. But now, not a single one of them had managed to escape. Once the battle started, the 18 sovereigns didn't hesitate. They slaughtered their way out of the Divine Star realm and charged towards the Imperial army that was charging into the Divine Star Academy. This scene shocked Yifei deeply. It also made Jiangzhen tear up. Suddenly, Jiangzhen made a decision. He wiped his eyes dry and stuffed his space belt into Yifei's hands. Then, he turned around and strode outside. Yifei quickly shouted, "Wait a minute." Jiangzhen turned his head back, his eyes filled with a trace of viciousness and determination. Yi Fei, you are not a member of the Divine Star Academy, so you cannot stay behind and throw your life away. But I am different, my roots are here. My master is fighting in the front lines, while my martial uncles and martial uncles are risking their lives outside. Countless disciples of the Divine Star Academy are being slaughtered outside. Slaughter, I cannot be a deserter. I cannot leave them behind. Then let me go with you. Who said that I am not a member of the Divine Star Academy? Don't forget, I am still a guest of the Divine Star Academy. Besides, the battle has just begun. The outcome of the battle is still unknown. Running away before the battle is not what a man should do. So, please let me stay behind. For you, for the Lord of Heaven, for the Divine Star Academy. For the Divine Star Academy, I will fight to the last moment for Qin Dutian. Yi Fei suddenly threw the space belt in his hands to Jiang Zhen. He slung the heavy sword over his shoulder and chased after Jiang Zhen. You brat, are you not afraid of death? Jiang Zhen was stunned. To be honest, I am very afraid of death. But it is because of this that I have no choice but to fight. I will never admit defeat. This is my Tao. After saying this, Yi Fei had already taken out his third-level divine sword. Lin Chun had the dual spear divine ability, but he also had the dual sword divine ability. The outcome of the battle was still unknown. However, just as Yi Fei held his two swords and rushed out of the Divine Star Academy, he saw a terrifying scene that infuriated him. Countless arrows rained down from the sky like an endless black storm, engulfing the sky and the earth. Screams and corpses littered the ground. Some of the disciples flew into the sky, but their bodies were pierced through like a hornet's nest. Some disciples ran on the ground, but their bodies suddenly froze. Countless arrows pierced their backs and pierced through their chests. Ah, kill me, kill me! Suddenly, a female disciple screamed from not too far away. She had been hit by several arrows and had lost a lot of blood, causing her face to be as pale as paper. But at this time, there was actually a skinny young master holding an iron halberd, and halberd after halberd, tearing apart her clothes. Wang Jian, you bastard! Boom! The moment Yi Fei saw this scene, his entire being exploded. He suddenly regretted. He should not have spared Wang Jian's life in the land of termination energy. At that time, Wang Jian was almost sucked dry by the termination energy. But he only recovered a little of his strength. Not only did Wang Jian not repent, he became even more vicious, even more ferocious. But when he heard Yi Fei's voice, Wang Jian's eyes suddenly became fierce and vicious. He did not give Yi Fei a chance to save her. Wang Jian laughed maniacally and raised his halberd. With a poof, he nailed the female disciple to the ground. Then, a ghastly and terrifying murderous aura suddenly appeared on Wang Jian's body. Yi Fei, I've been waiting for you for so long. Now, I'll let you know who's superior and whose life is as cheap as a dog's. Die, Ghost King Halberd! Woo woo woo! The air was filled with terrifying ghostly howls. No one expected that Wang Jian would not only survive after being provoked in the land of termination energy, but also miraculously learn one of the family Wang's forbidden mystiques, the Ghost King Halberd. This halberd technique was even more terrifying than the Overlord halberd. Especially after joining the royal family, Wang Jian's cultivation level had been raised to the late heavenly venerable realm by King Chu. This made Wang Jian's strength even more terrifying. Yi Fei, do you know why I tortured these female disciples to death? I was waiting for you to come out so that I could personally cut you to pieces with my halberd. Roar! The halberd roared and formed a ghostly dragon. It roared and charged at Yi Fei. Yi Fei stared at Wang Jian, who was charging at him. He suddenly exhaled and shouted. Suddenly, he gripped the black iron heavy sword with both hands and quickly smashed it forward. Not only did it instantly smash the sinister ghost dragon, it even bent the divine halberd in Wang Jian's hand. This sudden change caused Wang Jian to scream in fear. Chapter 2048. Wang Jian retreated frantically. When he realized that Yi Fei had broken through to the late-stage heavenly venerable realm, he was scared out of his wits. In the end, Wang Jian was just a playboy who bullied the weak and feared the strong. When Yi Fei was weak, he was as fierce as a wolf. When Yi Fei was strong, Wang Jian would run for his life in fear. If it were any other time, Yi Fei would not even bother to kill a playboy like Wang Jian. However, it was different now. Looking at the disheveled female disciple who had been nailed to death, Yi Fei's killing intent soared. Kill! Wang Jian, I will take your life today. The black iron heavy sword in Yi Fei's hand shone even brighter. Just as Wang Jian was running for his life in fear, Yi Fei had already used the greater void steps. His body left behind countless afterimages, and almost every step he took caused the ground to rumble. After that, Wang Jian saw a black iron heavy sword as heavy as a mountain smashing towards his body, emitting a loud clang. At the crucial moment, Wang Jian's survival instincts made him raise his bent halberd to block the black iron heavy sword. However, the black iron heavy sword's astonishing power was still like an entire black iron heavy mountain. Wang Jian's entire body was half kneeling on the ground as he trembled violently. Kill! Yi Fei let out an angry roar like a dragon beast. After his sword was blocked, he swung his arms and an even more terrifying divine power passed through the black iron heavy sword and smashed onto Wang Jian's already bent Ghost King divine halberd. Yi Fei's dark steel heavy sword had completely cut the Ghost King divine halberd into two halves. Then, the heavy sword slashed Wang Jian's forehead all the way to the bottom of the ground. Yi Fei's dark steel heavy sword had cut the Ghost King divine halberd into two halves. Then, the heavy sword slashed Wang Jian's forehead all the way to the ground. You! Wang Jian's eyes widened in fear and hatred. Then, his body suddenly split into two halves with his forehead as the center. Yi Fei's sword had actually cut Wang Jian's body into two halves on the spot. However, Wang Jian was still alive. He had used some kind of secret technique, and his divine soul was controlling the sky. Gong had escaped from his body in advance. Then, Wang Jian continued to flee with a ghastly wind. Dad, save me! Save me! I don't want to die. I'm still young. I still have a lot of wealth to enjoy. Yi Fei! You little bastard, how dare you hurt my son? This patriarch will execute you with 1,000 cuts. Roar! Not far away, Wang Zhongshan was currently commanding the warriors of family Wang to massacre the disciples of the Divine Star Academy. These family Wang martial artists weren't massacring Empyreans or sovereigns, but servants who weren't even Empyreans. They killed to their heart's content. Countless people laughed wildly. Amidst the blood and flames, their sinister and cruel faces were revealed. When Yi Fei saw this scene, he was completely enraged. His body suddenly left an afterimage on the spot. In midair, 8 terrifying dragon roars could be heard. 8 notes of heavenly dragon. 8 extreme heavenly dragons. Yi Fei suddenly used his martial arts to summon his strongest 8 heavenly dragons. The heavenly dragons roared and suddenly condensed into 8 heavenly dragon sword lights. They were like 8 resplendent divine stars. With a loud bang, they pierced through Wang Jian's heaven palace and destroyed the last remnants of his divine soul. My son, seeing Wang Jian's tragic death, Wang Zhongshan suddenly burst into tears. Wang Jian was his only son. Now that Wang Jian was dead, no matter how ruthless Wang Zhongshan was, his heart was filled with grief and indignation. Then, it turned into a thick rage. Yi Fei, this patriarch wants you to die. You will die now. Wang Zhongshan waved his new overlord halberd and suddenly charged over in a frenzy. Old dog, you came at the right time. Back then, it was you who chased after me and caused Sister Sword Spirit's divine sense to dissipate in order to save me. Back then, it was you who blocked the city gates and prevented me from entering the Divine Star Academy. Now, it's you again. You are willing to be the royal family's dog and kill so many innocent people in the Divine Star Academy? This is a debt of blood, a debt of blood. It must be repaid with blood. Yi Fei's body was like a raging inferno, like a divine light, and finally like a resplendent star, filling the entire sky. An intense aura of laws erupted from his flesh and blood, from his cells like a volcano. The Tao of Despair, golden body of laws. Bang! When Yi Fei opened this divine ability of despair, his blood and eyes were filled with a luxurious purple-gold color. Then Yi Fei's heavy sword and Wang Zhongshan's overlord halberd collided repeatedly. The more Wang Zhongshan fought, the more shocked he became. This is impossible. You little bastard, you are only at the late Empyrean realm. You can actually block the attacks of this sovereign overlord breaking array. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying overlord dragon aura was released by Wang Zhongshan. His halberd techniques became faster and faster, fiercer and fiercer. This was the true essence of the overlord halberd. Stormy storm, breaking array. If it were any other Empyrean realm martial artist, facing such a violent halberd technique, they would have been pierced into a hornet's nest. However, Yi Fei's golden body of laws was burning more and more fiercely, constantly blocking Wang Zhongshan's sovereign attacks. This was the most terrifying aspect of the Tao of Despair. Cultivating the first level of the golden body of laws would allow one to block the attacks of a sovereign. Cultivating the second level would allow one to block the attacks of the Lord of Heaven Realm. At this moment, no matter how strong or fast Wang Zhongshan's attacks were, Yi Fei only had one action, and that was to ignore the storm of attacks in front of him. Then, Yi Fei let out a roar that was even more terrifying than the vicious beast. There was also the terrifying sound of the dark steel heavy sword tearing through the air. Wang Zhongshan, didn't you want to avenge your son? I will send you down now and let you and your son reunite. Kill. Boom. Boom. Yi Fei's muscles exploded. His muscles, bones, and blood were burning like a raging fire, like a volcano erupting. He didn't use any martial arts. At this moment, his physical body and the dark steel heavy sword were the most terrifying power. This kind of power could explode space and shatter the earth. Wah! The moment the overlord halberd broke, Yi Fei's dark steel heavy sword had already smashed heavily on Wang Zhongshan's head. The sovereign's eyeballs were about to pop out of their socket. His face was ferocious. Little bastard, you actually, Wang Zhongshan didn't finish his words. His physical body, sky palace, and divine soul had all collapsed and exploded under the power of the dark steel heavy sword. The sovereign of the family Wang Zhongshan, was smashed to death by the dark steel heavy sword just like that. This scene also caused the surrounding Divine Star Academy's disciples to be excited. Originally, many of them were already in despair when facing the encirclement of the royal family. But now, seeing Yi Fei's blood-soaked figure and the fallen Wang Jian and Wang Zhongshan, they all erupted. Many of the disciples erupted and retaliated. In the face of death, no one dared to take any chances. No one kowtowed and begged for mercy. In everyone's heart, there was only one thought, and that was to fight. Chapter 2049. After killing Wang Zhongshan, Yi Fei did not stop. Instead, he dragged his blood-stained dark steel heavy sword and charged towards family Wang's troops. Even though Wang Zhongshan was dead, these family Wang warriors were still as ferocious as ever. They were still slaughtering the weak servant disciples everywhere they went. While Yi Fei and Wang Zhongshan were fighting, this pack of ravenous family Wang warriors had already fought their way into the chore's yard. There were a large number of elderly and children hiding inside, but these family Wang warriors turned a blind eye to them. Under the orders of a certain general from the royal family, they started slaughtering without hesitation. Slash, 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 slash. The ground was littered with human heads and white-haired old men. There were also children's faces that were twisted in fear. The dragon turtle could not bear to see this, and Xiao Qiao could not help but cry. Yi Fei's hands and feet turned cold. Even though he did not know these people, Yi Fei's heart trembled when he saw this hellish scene. Yi Fei. His sword also trembled. Kill! Yi Fei did not say anything. He raised his heavy sword and charged into the midst of this pack of ravenous warriors without hesitation. His sword was wailing, but his hands did not stop moving. Large patches of space were smashed apart by the dark steel heavy sword. Even more family Wang warriors were smashed into piles of mush by the dark steel heavy sword. Yimo, it's Yimo. He killed family head and young master, and now he wants to kill us. The one who screamed was Wang Go. He was family Wang's military advisor. He still remembered the first time he met Yi Fei in ancient Supreme City. At that time, Yi Fei was not even a heavenly venerate. In order to save his life, he had no choice but to pretend to be a spy for family Wang. Wang Go would never have imagined that in just a few months, Yi Fei would not only break through to the heavenly venerate level, but he could also easily kill a ruler. Yi Fei, who wielded the black iron heavy sword, was even more terrifying than the demon king of hell. It was inevitable that Wang Go was terrified and cowardly. After the royal family's general was smashed into a meat patty by Yi Fei's sword, Wang Go's legs trembled and he knelt in front of Yi Fei in fright. "Young Master Yi, please spare me. I was forced to do this. When you killed those defenseless old people and children, did you ever think that they were forced to do so?" Bang! With a swing of the heavy sword, Dog Wang's head fell to the ground, and his body stiffened. However, right at this moment, a large group of people suddenly barged into the courtyard. The ones in the lead were none other than He Chun and the 7 elders. "You little bastard, today will be the day you die. Release the arrows and kill him. Buzz buzz buzz." Suddenly, a large number of black arrows rained down like a dense rainstorm, completely submerging the entire courtyard. Anyone who was still alive in this area, whether friend or foe, including the vicious He Chun and the 7 elders, was not spared. In the end, the terrifying rain of arrows directly blasted the entire courtyard into ashes. Blood, tears, screams, and wails were everywhere. The area where Yi Fei stood was completely submerged by the endless rain of arrows. Even so, He Chun was unwilling to relax. Besides continuing to give the order to release the arrows, he pointed at the 7 elders. "He Chi, bring some people over and see if that little bastard is dead." "Yes, family head. The rest of you, come with me." The 7 elders were very pleased with themselves. They brought the ruler's guards that King Lu had arranged for the family He and swaggered towards the area covered by the rain of arrows. "Little bastard, back at the city gates, you ordered the white commander to slap this old man's mouth. This old man will use the same method as you. Today I'll knock out your teeth and break your dog legs." The old man's eyes flickered with venom and caution as he ordered his 2 imperial bodyguards to get close to Yi Fei, while he stayed behind to hold the line. At the same time, the area covered by the rain of arrows was suddenly filled with boundless sword light. The whistling sword light was like a long river, like a star, like a raging fire, like a mountain. Yi Fei's face was filled with grief as he walked out from the rain of arrows. Around him was a ground full of corpses, corpses that had died with their eyes open. At first, I thought that I could protect them, but in the end I realized that there was only blood and corpses around me. Bloody corpses. Ice-cold blood. I can't protect them, but I can kill all of you as a sacrifice to these innocent souls. Rumble. The dark steel heavy sword moved. It was as if Mount Tai was crashing down, as if the heavens were collapsing. It carried Yi Fei's madness, Yi Fei's anger, and also his pain and hatred. After smashing the 2 sovereign guards to the ground, it landed right in front of the 7 old men. The 7 old men's eyes went wide with fear as they realized that their intelligence and caution were nothing more than a joke in front of the dark steel heavy sword. Finally, Yi Fei walked past the 7 elders. Behind him were the corpses of the 7 elders and the rain of arrows. In front of him was a shocked He-chun and the terrified family He. All of a sudden, He-chun laughed. His laughter was very arrogant and contemptuous. Yi Fei, this patriarch has to admit that I underestimated you back then. But this patriarch has never regretted my decision back then. The Yuanli city was nothing more than an itinerant cultivator, a country bumpkin, a wild dog that wandered everywhere for the sake of cultivation. Yes, I pitied you and took you in. Therefore, I wanted you to hand over all your martial arts and divine abilities. There was nothing wrong with that. But you killed 2 of my family He's heavenly venerables and emptied my family He's treasury. You evil creature, just how daring are you? Today, I will personally dig you out and see for myself. He-chun's voice was like thunder. His face was filled with killing intent. He didn't care about the lives of the 7 elders at all. His body suddenly erupted with the power of a late-stage ruler. A rank 3 divine saber appeared in his hand. Then, the divine saber suddenly lit up. With the support of the 2 divine marks, He-chun's aura reached its peak. This peak made He-chun believe that he could even kill a late-stage ruler with a single slash, let alone a late-stage heavenly venerate ant in front of him. Moonfall. He-chun moved. He waved his divine saber, and the saber light tore through the air, causing the entire area to become much more dazzling. The brilliant saber light transformed into a divine moon. Within the divine moon, He-chun was graceful and elegant, like a god of the moon, looking down on Yi Fei, who was like an ant on the ground. However, when he saw the divine moon, Yi Fei suddenly laughed. His laughter was deranged and filled with ridicule. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. He-chun, this is the reward for your betrayal. Is this the reward you get for not being a human and instead becoming a dog for the imperial family? A late-stage ruler and a rank 3 divine saber. You've abandoned your status as a human. Laughable, lamentable, shameful, infuriating. A person like you isn't fit to be a human. You're only fit to be a dog, a dead dog. You little bastard, shut your mouth. He-chun was ashamed and furious. Not only had he become a dog, he had even given his most precious daughter to King Lu to be a plaything without any status. This was a taboo that He-chun couldn't touch. Now that Yi Fei had touched it, He-chun was instantly enraged. His saber was even more ferocious and powerful. The divine moon in the sky emitted a dazzling saber light that tore through the sky and cut through the earth. It also left bloody wounds on Yi Fei's body. However, Yi Fei didn't care about the divine moon's saber light. His eyes were fixed on He-chun and his body. Chapter 2050. Kill. There were no superfluous words. The grudge between Yi Fei and family He was too deep. It was a grudge that couldn't be resolved, and one that Yi Fei wasn't willing to resolve. When he found out about the relationship between Yi Fei and the Divine Star Academy, and when Ren Tianxing gave him the dragonskin scroll that recorded Renzu's treasure, he was destined to have an unbreakable connection with the Divine Star Academy. Now that the Divine Star Academy was in trouble, and the royal family, he wanted to destroy the Divine Star Academy and kill everyone here, including Yi Fei himself. Therefore, there was only one thing left for Yi Fei: fight. 8 extreme heavenly dragons. Yi Fei spat out the voice of the heavenly dragons. The powerful, profound strength of a late-stage heavenly venerable made this Emperor's throne technique even more terrifying. The 8 heavenly dragon swords slashed forward again, blocking the divine moon. Yi Fei roared again, and the black iron heavy sword in his hand suddenly exploded with a dazzling light. The light of the divine sword. This sword was like a rolling river, and it quickly evolved into the Tai Chi, Yin-Yang, 6 directions, and 7 luminaries. However, before Yi Fei could continue to evolve the heart sword technique, He-chun's divine moon blade had already descended rapidly, and it was as dazzling as the moon falling from the sky. The profound strength of a late-stage sovereign caused the nearby buildings to shake violently, and then collapse. Dense cracks appeared on the ground like a spider web, and above the cracks was a terrifying divine moon. It was less than 3 meters above the ground, and less than 1 meter above Yi Fei's head. Seeing that the divine moon was about to fall and completely destroy Yi Fei moved. He gave up on using his divine ability. No matter how strong a divine ability was, it was still a heavenly venerable divine ability, and there was still a huge gap between it and a sovereign divine ability. However, Yi Fei could use this gap to his advantage. He could use absolute strength to make up for it. The strength of his physical body. The strength of his sword. This was a clash between Yi Fei's pure physical strength divine ability and He Chun's sovereign realm profound strength divine ability. This result was far beyond the expectations of countless family, martial practitioners. The instant the heavy black iron sword collided with He Chun's divine moon blade light, the falling speed of the divine moon abruptly slowed. Then, a terrifying explosion came from below the divine moon. Yi Fei, who was wielding the black iron heavy sword, seemed to have transformed into a raging beast with boundless strength. War demon. His body was like a spinning top as he crazily swung the black iron heavy sword in his hand again and again. He also turned this divine sword into an indestructible black iron sword mountain as he crazily smashed it into the sky above his head. The light of the divine moon was suddenly suppressed. Then, with a series of cracking sounds, terrifying cracks appeared. These cracks shocked the warriors of family He, and He Chun, who had attacked, could not help but reveal a look of fear on her face. This kid is really a freak. Other heavenly venerates have around 30 to 50,000 kilograms of divine strength. This little bastard's divine strength is actually 50,000 kilograms. 50,000 kilograms of divine strength was the limit that even a sovereign realm profound strength divine ability could not achieve. In the face of such strength, no matter how exquisite He Chun's moonfall divine ability was, there was only one outcome for it: to be smashed to pieces by Yi Fei. In the end, this divine moon was completely crushed by Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword. The sword was split into 2 halves, forming 2 broken crescent moons that rushed out from behind Yi Fei and slashed the ground with 2 terrifying crescent-shaped blade energies. But He Chun didn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. In fact, he couldn't conceal the panic and fear that flashed through his eyes. He suddenly cried out in alarm. A solemn sovereign had actually been forced back by Yi Fei's Empyrean realm attack, as if he didn't dare to fight Yi Fei head-on. "Where do you think you're going, He Chun? Didn't you want to kill me? Didn't you want to steal my martial arts mystique? My life is here, my mystique is here, my life is here, who dares to take it? Kill." Yi Fei's eyes were bloodshot. His heart was filled with self-blame, guilt, and anger for not being able to protect the elderly and children. His immense rage caused Yi Fei's sword-wielding hands to tremble. He roared like a dragon, but his eyes were bloodshot as he stared at He Chun, unable to give chase. "Give up. He Chun, today you must pay for the blood of those children who died. Demon Yi, you're too impudent. You only killed a few servants and lowly family members, and you dare to threaten our family head? Release the arrows, release the supremacy-destroying arrows." Seeing that their family head was being chased by Yi Fei, the family He elders were all enraged. They quickly gathered a group of royal elites from afar. These elites were all equipped with the terrifying supremacy-destroying arrows. As the name implied, these supremacy-destroying arrows were specially made to kill heavenly venerate. The rain of black arrows that had swept through the Divine Star Academy had been created by the royal family experts using the supremacy-destroying arrows. At this time, the royal family had completely invaded the Divine Star Academy. In the sky, Ren Tianxing, the Lord of Heaven, was leading a large number of sovereigns to fight against King Chu, the Lord of Heaven, and the Heavenly Corps ghost generals controlled by King Lu. On the ground, the teachers and disciples of the Divine Star Academy, who had been forced into a corner, were all madly fighting against their enemies with bloodshot eyes. Thus, the royal family elites who had been freed up immediately sent a group of people to attack Yi Fei. Whoosh! Yi Fei only heard a thunderous explosion in his ears. Hundreds of supremacy-piercing arrows condensed into black light of death and suddenly shot towards his vitals. Meanwhile, He-chun, who seemed to be fleeing for her life, suddenly turned her head proudly and turned around to fight again. Yi Fei, do you think that this family head would be afraid of a country bumpkin like you? Afraid of a heavenly venerate trash like you? To tell you the truth, this is the moment I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for you to be pierced through the heart by the arrows and kneel and beg for mercy. He-chun's sovereign aura became even more terrifying. The sky above his head was no longer the heavenly palace, but a brilliant divine moon. This was the wheel of fate that belonged only to sovereigns. Cultivating divine techniques was to condense a divine moon. Cultivating demonic techniques was to condense a demonic sun. Everyone, attack together. Cooperate with the family head and kill Demon Yi. Seeing that there was an opportunity for them to take advantage of, the numerous heavenly venerates of family, he rushed forward and tried to cut Yi Fei into pieces. At this time, Yi Fei's blood-stained face suddenly revealed a very clean smile. He-chun, I've said it before. You are not fit to be a human. You can only be a dog, a dead dog. If I say I will do it, then I will definitely do it. Take my sword. Taiji 8 trigrams sword. Boom. The heart sword mystique that had been interrupted suddenly erupted. The black iron heavy sword in Yi Fei's hand suddenly disappeared and was replaced by the level 3 divine sword that Jiang Zhen had given him. This was the strongest sword in the Divine Star Academy. When Yi Fei took out the divine sword, the level 1 divine runes on the divine sword suddenly lit up. Then, the level 2 divine runes also lit up. Finally, the level 3 divine runes also began to burn fiercely. Chapter 2051. Seeing this scene, He-chun immediately let out an extremely terrified roar. Madman, you're completely crazy. You damned little bastard, do you think you're the only one with a tier 3 divine weapon? Divine inscriptions, burn for this family head. Boom boom boom. He-chun raised the tier 3 divine saber in his hand. This was something He Wushuang had asked King Lu for him, and had specially given to He-chun to protect his life. At this moment, under the threat of Yi Fei's attack from the Lord of Heaven, He-chun immediately activated all the divine inscriptions on the divine saber. A terrifying power of the Lord of Heaven also surged out from He-chun's body and collided with Yi Fei's Taiji 8 trigram sword. The nearby family He warriors immediately heard a terrifying explosion, as if the heavens and earth had exploded. Following that, an endless amount of profound energy formed into saber light and sword shadows, causing this area to completely turn into a purgatory on earth. All the warriors who were close to this purgatory, below the level of a ruler, were all struck by this attack from the Lord of Heaven. Their heavenly palaces exploded, their souls crumbled, and their corpses stiffened as they fell to the ground. The supremacy-breaking arrows that were originally aimed at Yi Fei had already exploded into ashes before they could even get close to this area, scaring the elites of the royal family and causing them to retreat in fear. However, they still couldn't avoid being affected by the attack from the Lord of Heaven. They spat out blood and flew backwards, rolling all over the ground. If the warriors on the periphery were already so heavily injured, Yi Fei, who was at the center, felt as if all the bones in his body were about to be shattered by the aftershock of the Lord of Heaven's attack. However, when he thought of the tragic deaths of those old people and children, and the deep regret and powerlessness that he felt for not being able to protect them, Yi Fei's eyes flashed. An even more terrifying madness suddenly flashed in his eyes. Again. If one attack doesn't work, then 2 attacks. If 2 attacks don't work, then 3 attacks. Old dog, I said I would kill you, so you must do it today. Divine inscriptions, burn for me! Yi Fei roared angrily. He was like a demon god that had gone berserk. The 3 divine patterns that had been extinguished in his hand suddenly lit up. You've really gone mad. You're a lunatic, a demon. Your life is as cheap as a dog's. If you die, then so be it. I still have a bright future ahead of me. King Lu has already promised me that once the Lin family is destroyed, my family he will be the #1 family in the imperial city. I cannot die with this lunatic. Even if Yi Chun was beaten to death, he would never have imagined that Yi Fei would be so crazy and disregard his own life when he was truly enraged. What made him most aggrieved was that Yi Fei didn't care about his own life. Yi Chun was completely terrified. He was so scared that his legs were trembling, and even his voice was trembling. Without waiting for Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword to slash down again, Yi Chun was already screaming towards the sky in fear, "King Lu, save me! This guy surnamed Yi has gone berserk. I can't stop him." Trash, good for nothing. You still want to be the #1 family in the imperial city? If not for the fact that your daughter is pretty, I would have killed you right now. In the sky, King Lu was controlling the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General. Together with King Chu, they were fighting against Ren Tianxing. They had already gained the upper hand. However, on the ground, Wang Zhongshan and Yi Chun, who had been ordered to massacre the Divine Star Academy, had either died or been defeated. King Lu was enraged to the extreme. "Yi Fei, if I don't kill you today, wouldn't the massacre of the Divine Star Academy be an empty promise? Ghost General, kill him for me! Roar!" The Heavenly Corpse Ghost General received King Lu's order. It suddenly retracted its wings, and its entire body transformed into a cold wind as it charged towards Yi Fei. Along the way it was incomparably cruel. Suddenly, it tore off the heads of 2 teachers who were blocking its way. It laughed eerily. Yi Fei naturally sensed the terrifying danger behind him. However, when he thought of the elderly and children who had died tragically, and saw the hypocritical and cruel face of Yi Chun, he made up his mind. Suddenly, he made up his mind and actually ignored the Ghost General charging at him from behind. The rank 3 divine sword in his hand once again erupted with dazzling divine light. A strike from the Lord of Heaven. It really is a strike from the Lord of Heaven. How is this possible? Where did he get so much source energy from? He can actually activate the 3rd level divine imprint twice. If I had known that this day would come, I would have personally ended him back in Li City. Yi Chun's face was filled with sorrow. It was as if he was risking his life to block Yi Fei's terrifying Taiji sword light. However, it was a pity that he, who had exhausted his source energy, did not have any energy left to activate the 3rd level divine imprint. In the end, Yi Chun could only see a terrifying sword light tearing his body apart. It tore apart his soul and fate wheel. Pung! The body of this ruler, Yi Chun, exploded in the air like a blood-red firework. In the sky, Yi Fei stood tall like a mountain of swords. Purple gold light formed a resplendent Taiji diagram. The 8 trigrams appeared around him, forming the 6 directions and 7 luminaries. It was like the stars of the heavens illuminating the skies. This old dog is dead. You can all rest in peace. Finally, Yi Fei's gaze fell on the elderly and children who had died tragically. Although he had exhausted all of the Empyrean source energy he had obtained, everything he had done was worth it. He had killed Wang Zhongshan and Yi Chun, the 2 most vicious dogs of the royal family. He had allowed these heroic spirits to rest in peace. Guest Elder Yi, be careful. Suddenly, an academy disciple cried out in warning. But before he could finish speaking, a cold wind blew past him. With a cracking sound, the disciple who had warned Yi Fei had his head twisted off by a withered claw. This was the Ghost General's claw. After killing that disciple, the Ghost General's scarlet eyes coldly stared at Yi Fei. Then, it let out a shrill screech like a malicious ghost and suddenly appeared in front of Yi Fei from far away. Its withered claws grabbed at Yi Fei's head with a swoosh. It rushed over. "Get out of my way!" Yi Fei broke out in a cold sweat. Faced with the Ghost General's attack, which was comparable to the Lord of Heaven, he didn't dare to think. He just instinctively slashed out with his two-sword. His dark steel heavy sword also successfully cut into the Ghost General's body. The Ghost General didn't move at all. A sinister look flashed across its face, which was covered in livor mortis. After all, it was a Ghost General that was comparable to the Lord of Heaven. No matter how strong Yi Fei's divine power was, he could deal with a ruler. But against the Lord of Heaven, who was even stronger than a ruler, he was still a far cry. What terrified Yi Fei even more was that when his level 3 divine sword cut into the Ghost General, it actually shattered into pieces with a bang. This was because Yi Fei had forcefully activated all the divine inscriptions on the level 3 divine sword several times in a row. And the divine material used to forge this spirit-augmented divine sword had clearly reached its limit. And so, this level 3 divine sword finally couldn't bear the burden and shattered. This also caused Yi Fei's battle strength to drop by a level at this critical moment. The Ghost General also suddenly felt Yi Fei's battle strength drop. The mockery on its face deepened. At this moment, its withered claw also became like a spirit-augmented divine weapon. With a bang, it viciously clawed at Yi Fei's body. In an instant, it clawed a bloody hole. Chapter 2052. Even though He Chun had died in battle, his level 3 divine saber was still there. As long as Yi Fei could obtain it, he would be able to make up for the loss of his level 3 divine saber. He would also be able to better block the attack of the Sky Corp's Ghost General. King Lu had already seen through Yi Fei's plan. Just as Yi Fei used all his strength to roll away from the Sky Corp's Ghost General, King Lu rushed forward and grabbed He Chun's level 3 divine saber. "Haha, Yi Fei, when you rejected the recruitment of my royal family, did you think that this day would come? Now that you don't have a level 3 divine saber, it's impossible for you to activate the level 3 divine rune and unleash the attack of the Lord of Heaven. Let's see how you die this time. Kill." He Chun's level 3 divine saber originally belonged to King Lu. Now that it had been returned to its rightful owner, the divine saber in his hand suddenly exploded with a terrifying light. The light tore through space and slashed at Yi Fei, who was rolling forward. "Yi Fei!" In the distant sky, Jiang Zhen suddenly roared anxiously. He fought his way out of the encirclement and wanted to stop King Lu from killing Yi Fei. However, in the sky opposite Jiang Zhen, King Chu laughed maniacally. "Humph, after rejecting the recruitment of my royal family, you still want to live? After killing King Qi, you still want to live? As a lowly commoner, you dare to oppose my royal family? How can you still live? I'm not afraid to tell you that I've already agreed to use Yi Fei's head as a sacrifice to King Qi. Ren Tianxing, die." Boom. King Chu unleashed the might of the Lord of Heaven and continued his battle with Ren Tianxing. Even though King Chu was a newly ascended Lord of Heaven, the cultivation technique he cultivated was left behind by the founding emperor, the Sky River Dao monarch. Its power was shocking and was even above the Lord of Heaven of the Divine Star Academy. At this moment, King Chu was fighting to a draw with the Lord of Heaven's early stage Ren Tianxing, who was at the mid-stage Lord of Heaven's mid-stage. King Chu was surrounded by a large number of sovereigns of the royal family. They were the trusted loyalists that the royal family had spent countless efforts to cultivate over the past few centuries. They all belonged to Baida and Baer. He was a top-notch expert. Although the sovereign cultivation method of the royal family was not as powerful as the sovereign cultivation method of the Divine Star Academy, they had relied on the slaughter of the Heavenly Corp's Ghost General to gradually gain the advantage in numbers. Although Jiang Zhen and many other sovereigns of the other academies could see that Yi Fei was doomed, no one could do it in such a hurry. He broke through the blockade and rushed down to help Yi Fei. How could King Lu not grab hold of this golden opportunity? The divine saber in his hand shone with an even more dazzling saber light. The saber light was like a hurricane, like the waves of the sea. Finally, it formed into the shape of a dragon with wings on its back. With a loud roar, it charged towards Yi Fei. The royal family's divine ability, Wind Wave Dragon Snake Slash. However, King Lu's fatal saber attack did not succeed. This was because before King Lu made his move, Xiao Qiao, who was in the beast mark space, had already discovered King Lu's actions. With Xiao Qiao's warning, Yi Fei had already predicted King Lu's attack. King Lu, die! Yi Fei roared. While his body was rolling, the profound iron heavy sword in his hand had already turned into a sword shield. He placed it behind him like a door, and there was a loud clang. King Lu's divine saber did not land on Yi Fei's body. Instead, it landed on the black iron heavy sword. The friction caused intense sparks to fly. This caused King Lu to be instantly enraged. This damned black iron heavy sword. When I return, I will execute the entire family of the weapon forger who created this heavy sword. One had to know that this black iron heavy sword originally belonged to the royal family. Furthermore, it was created on a whim by one of the royal family's genius weapon forgers. In order to wield this sword, one would need at least 50,000 jin of strength to wield it. In the entire Tianhe kingdom, it was hard to find anyone who could wield it, even if they were in the sovereign realm. Hence, this divine saber was treated as a defective product and was thrown to the Qizhen pavilion. Then, Madame Meng treated it as a favor and gave it to Yi Fei. How could King Lu not be enraged? Yi Fei had rejected the royal family's offer to recruit him. Yet, he had repeatedly used the royal family's weapon to escape death. How could King Lu not be enraged? King Lu's saber slashed forward. Another divine saber that was even more terrifying appeared. It was shaped like a dragon and actually coiled around it. The resplendent saber light wrapped around the black iron heavy sword and spiraled upwards. Once again, it slashed towards Yi Fei's throat. Yi Fei was shocked. However, after years of killing, he had already developed a sense of intuition. His battle instincts were like a hallucination. Just as King Lu's divine saber was about to slash his throat, Yi Fei suddenly roared. His free left hand formed into the azure dragon's claw and clawed forward. Pung! When King Lu's saber was only 10 centimeters away from Yi Fei's throat, it suddenly stopped. The reason why the saber stopped was because of Yi Fei's hand. Yi Fei had used his own hand to grab hold of the divine saber. The saber's sharp edge emitted a screeching sound. That was the sound of the saber's edge cutting through Yi Fei's palm and scraping against his bones. The excruciating pain caused Yi Fei's face to contort. However, only his hand continued to grip the saber's edge tightly. He allowed the saber's edge to cut through his palm and scraped against his bones. The friction was enough to shatter a piece of metal in an instant. However, it was still unable to destroy Yi Fei's palm. This was because Yi Fei had already completely activated his golden body of laws. Even his blood seemed to be dyed with a purplish gold luster under the golden body's light. How is this possible? You, a heavenly venerable, actually managed to grab hold of my sovereign's divine saber with your bare hands. King Lu was completely shocked. He couldn't believe that Yi Fei's golden body of laws had such terrifying defensive capabilities. Then, King Lu was enraged once again. The aura of a sovereign erupted from his body once again. The divine saber suddenly became like a dragon snake, twisting and turning violently in Yi Fei's palm. It was like an electric drill, trying to drill through Yi Fei's palm and then through Yi Fei's skull. However, Yi Fei's hand didn't move at all. He allowed the drill-like divine saber to grind his flesh and pierce through his bones. Yi Fei only smiled coldly. Suddenly, he used his other hand to raise the black iron saber again and smashed it heavily on King Lu's bulging belly. The excruciating pain caused King Lu's face to contort. His fat belly caved in after being smashed by the black iron saber. Fresh blood and organs were about to spurt out from his throat. It couldn't be helped. Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword was too heavy. Even though King Lu was a sovereign, his body was still in turmoil after being hit by it. His entire body was like a windmill as he rolled on the ground pathetically. The immense humiliation and anger caused King Lu's soul to let out a roar that was even more terrifying than a ghost. "Lowly commoner, how dare you treat me like this? Ghost General, kill him! Rip his stomach open! I want to personally dig out his intestines one by one." F. Chapter 2053. Am I going to die? Yi Fei's eyes dimmed. Killing He Chun and forcing King Lu to retreat had already used up all his strength. Now, he didn't have his level 3 divine sword or any extra heavenly venerate origin. Facing the heavenly corpse Ghost General, who was at the level of the Lord of Heaven, his fate was sealed. He would definitely die. Under the sharp claws. But if I die, who will take care of who? Who will feed Xiao Qiao? Who will take care of the dragon turtle? Who will travel thousands of miles to find Zhao Yu? Who will disregard everything and return to the Earth realm to bring back Dutian's remains? Yi Fei's gloomy eyes suddenly brightened up. Only when he was facing death did Yi Fei realize that there were so many things in his heart that he couldn't bear to part with. The faces of his old friends appeared in his mind. The face of his hometown seemed to be right in front of him. But at this moment, a sharp claw and a sinister Ghost General's face covered with livor mortis suddenly tore apart his image. This made Yi Fei completely furious. "No, I can't die yet. I have too many things that I haven't finished yet. I have too many things that I can't let go of. I haven't seen my family, I haven't found my lover, I haven't fulfilled my promise to Dutian. Yes, Dutian. I haven't lost yet. I still have one last hope of victory." When he thought of Dutian, a crazy thought suddenly flashed through Yi Fei's mind. This thought made him open his own sky palace. His divine soul shone with a dazzling purple-gold divine light as he suddenly stood up from the Emperor's throne. Then, Yi Fei's physical body suddenly stopped moving. His divine soul lifted a foot and stepped out of the Sky Palace, charging towards the Ghost General's Sky Palace. Crazy, this brat is completely crazy. Without the protection of the Sky Palace and the Emperor's throne, his divine soul is the weakest clay statue. Ghost General, tear his soul apart first. King Lu gave the order with incomparable venom. But this time, the Ghost General didn't do as he was told. When he saw Yi Fei's soul leave his body and rush towards him, even though he was the Lord of Heaven who had awakened his zombie spirit, the Ghost General screamed in fear. It wasn't afraid of Yi Fei's soul. Instead, it was afraid of Yi Fei's immortal sword soul. Woo woo woo. The Ghost General suddenly let out a shrill roar, which sounded like the sound of a ghost from the underworld. This sound was too terrifying. Even though King Lu was using the bell to control the Ghost General, when he heard this sound, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood as he retreated. He didn't dare to get too close to the sound of the Ghost General. As Yi Fei faced this terrifying ghostly voice directly, he felt as if his soul was being annihilated layer by layer. His soul was getting weaker and weaker, but his eyes were getting brighter and brighter. Kill! Taking advantage of the fact that his soul hadn't been destroyed by the ghost cries, Yi Fei finally revealed his final trump card. A black sword medallion gave off a terrifying sword light that slashed forward. Not only did it destroy the surrounding ghost cries, but the whistling black golden sword also wrapped around Yi Fei's soul, causing a loud boom. The sound broke through the seal of the ghostly voice and rushed into the Ghost General's Sky Palace. Roar! Faced with this crisis, the Ghost General's face, which was covered with livor mortis spots, suddenly flashed with an instinctive fear. When he realized that the ghostly voice couldn't kill Yi Fei, the Ghost General raged and burned his own Sky Palace. The Ghost General's Sky Palace was dilapidated and didn't have the majesty of a Sky Palace. Instead, it was filled with an eerie ghostly aura. It wasn't a Sky Palace but a ghost city. And inside the ghost city, a ferocious-looking ghost wearing ghostly armor was waving its sharp claws, trying to tear Yi Fei's soul to shreds. But Yi Fei only waved the undying sword soul in his hand and slashed forward. The resplendent sword light had already severed the ferocious ghost's claws. The ferocious ghost let out a furious roar from the intense pain. As it retreated, it summoned the ghostly moon floating above the ghost city and smashed it towards Yi Fei. Kill! Yi Fei's soul roared angrily, but at this moment, he wielded his sword and charged into the Sky Corp's Ghost General's Sky Palace Ghost City with his weak soul. The resplendent sword light became even more dazzling. It was as brilliant as the great Sun Divine Sword, illuminating and destroying the heavens. Only a violent explosion could be heard. The undying sword soul had already slashed a huge crack into the ghostly moon. Then Yi Fei's soul raised his sword and strode forward, charging towards an ancient stone bridge in the depths of the ghost city. That was the Lord of Heaven's unique bridge. At this moment, the ferocious ghost was standing on the bridge. Above the bridge was the broken ghostly moon, and below it was the dark abyss. Seeing that the ghostly moon couldn't withstand Yi Fei's ferocity, the ferocious ghost instinctively stood on the bridge and burned the abyss below the bridge. Boom! The billowing dark aura suddenly turned into a cold and terrifying dark fire. The huge fire surrounded Yi Fei, burning his soul until it trembled and was slowly annihilated. But Yi Fei still didn't retreat. He had nowhere to retreat. There were only two outcomes if he charged into the Ghost General's Sky Palace Ghost City. Either he won and killed the Ghost General, or he lost and was killed by the Ghost General. Since there's no way out, then what's the harm in fighting? Why should I fear death? Undying sword soul, absorb! Yi Fei's soul roared. As he strode onto the bridge and endured the burning flames, he had already raised the undying sword token in his hand. Sensing Yi Fei's will, the undying sword token suddenly grew bigger and stronger. From a small token, it suddenly turned into a mysterious huge black gold sword. Then, this huge sword emitted an even more dazzling divine sword light, splitting the flames in the sky. Then, with another fierce strike, it pierced into the Ghost General standing on the bridge. The Ghost General. The Ghost General's eyes widened in fear. Under the suppression of the dazzling sword light of the undying sword token, it couldn't resist at all. It could only watch as the destructive vortex formed by the undying sword soul was like a black hole, completely swallowing its soul. Bam! As the Ghost General's soul was destroyed, the Sky Palace Ghost City started to shake violently. The Sky Palace started to crumble, and countless cracks appeared on the bridge. The dark abyss beneath the bridge faintly emitted mournful ghostly cries, as if it wanted to drag Yi Fei's soul into the endless darkness. However, what Yi Fei couldn't bear the most was that the undying sword soul had swallowed the Ghost General and refined the boundless origin of the Lord of Heaven. This origin of Heaven's power was too terrifying. Just by refining a trace of it, Yi Fei's soul was completely healed. His cultivation level also broke through from the late-stage Heavenly Venerate to the perfected Heavenly Venerate. He was only a step away from becoming a ruler. However, the Lord of Heaven's origin of the Lord of Heaven was still being refined from the undying sword soul. It surged wildly into Yi Fei's soul, causing Yi Fei's 1-meter-tall soul to grow to 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters. Oh no, the Lord of Heaven's origin of the Heavenly Corp's Ghost General is too terrifying. It's about to exceed the limit of what my soul can contain. Chapter 2054. In contrast to Yi Fei, who was flustered by the influx of the Lord of Heaven's source energy, King Lu, who was witnessing this scene, was scared out of his wits. What did I just see? This kid, not only did he charge into the Ghost General's heavenly palace without any regard for his own life, he even used some unknown method to swallow the Ghost General. That's a Ghost General we're talking about. That's one of the 2 Ghost Generals that my royal family had painstakingly cultivated for hundreds of years. But it was swallowed. The Lord of Heaven's Ghost General was actually swallowed by a lowly heavenly revered commoner. King Lu was so angry that he was about to go crazy. He roared and ignored the fact that he was injured by the ghost voice. He raised his level 3 divine blade and charged towards Yi Fei's body. His screams were even more terrifying than that of a ghost. Yi Fei, Demon King Yi, return me my royal family's Ghost General, you lowly commoner. Hurry up and spit out the Ghost General that you swallowed. Boom! The terrifying divine blade once again formed into a dragon snake and slashed towards Yi Fei's body. At this moment, Yi Fei's soul was still stuck in the Ghost General's heavenly palace that was about to collapse. If this divine blade hit Yi Fei, who was unable to defend himself, he would be torn apart by the enraged King Lu. However, King Lu's divine blade didn't hit Yi Fei. At this critical moment, Xiao Chao suddenly grabbed the dragon turtle from within the beast mark space and threw it out like a rock. Roar! When the dragon turtle was thrown out, its neck, limbs, and even its tail were all retracted into its shell. Only the size of the dragon turtle changed from the size of a palm to the size of a washbasin. Finally, it became heavier than a mountain. King Lu was dumbstruck, as if he had never seen anything like this before. What a huge and fat black turtle! Caught off guard, King Lu's entire body was sent tumbling several meters away by this gigantic creature. He had also lost his best chance to kill Yi Fei. The immense rage caused King Lu's bulging belly to tremble violently. The powerful defense of the sovereign realm allowed King Lu to remain unharmed even though he was sent flying by the dragon turtle. The moment he was sent flying by the dragon turtle, King Lu's plump body bounced up from the ground like a spring. He charged towards the dragon turtle at lightning speed. Damned black turtle, how dare you spoil my plans? Die! Boom! The third-order godly saber in his hands was emanating an aura of death. In his rage, King Lu had already decided to kill this eyesore of a black turtle. This frightened the dragon turtle so much that it shrank back and rolled on the ground like a rubber ball, trying to escape from King Lu. However, the attack of a sovereign realm expert was extremely terrifying. The third-order godly saber that was emanating an aura of death almost instantly slashed towards the dragon turtle, wanting to kill it instantly. At this moment, Yi Fei's soul that had expanded to its limit finally rushed out from the ghost city that was about to be destroyed by the Ghost General. The moment he returned to his body, Yi Fei let out a roar that was even more terrifying than the Ghost General's. Dragon Turtle, back off. Let me do it. If I want to kill, I have to inject this into my body. This Lord of Heaven's origin energy must be completely consumed. Kill. Yi Fei lifted his leg and lifted his sword. The heavy dark steel heavy sword suddenly carried a terrifying force that could tear apart the heavens and earth as it smashed towards King Lu. King Lu's instincts as a powerhouse made him give up on the dragon turtle that had shrunk to a very small size and was running away at an extremely fast speed. The third-level divine saber in his hand suddenly lit up with 2 divine inscriptions as he slashed towards Yi Fei's heavy sword. The godly saber and heavy sword once again let out a terrifying roar. However, what made King Lu fearful was that his sovereign realm attack, and the godly saber with 2 divine inscriptions, was actually unable to block Yi Fei's heavy sword that looked ordinary. King Lu's body was sent flying even further away by Yi Fei's heavy sword. He even spat out a large mouthful of blood in midair. How is this possible? Not only is this brat fine after swallowing the Ghost General, his body is also emanating an aura that is comparable to the Lord of Heaven's? Could it be that he can actually refine the Lord of Heaven's origin energy of the Ghost General for his own use? This king knows now. It's you. The one who killed all the termination energy in the land of termination energy was actually you. King Lu suddenly came to a realization. After all, the Ghost General was still a termination energy. Even an ordinary Lord of Heaven would find it difficult to kill it. However, not only did Yi Fei swallow the Ghost General in an instant, he could also refine the Lord of Heaven's origin energy of the Ghost General for his own use. This made one think of the termination energy that had disappeared in the Tao Monarch world. That's right. I was the one who killed all those termination energy. Not only termination energy, King Lu, King Chu, all of you must die. Kill. Yi Fei's face was flushed red as the blood in his body burned like flames. There was no other way. He had killed the Ghost General and refined the Lord of Heaven's origin energy. It was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that it was enough to cause his body and soul to explode. If he wanted to live, the only thing Yi Fei could do was to fight endlessly. He fought madly until the Lord of Heaven's origin energy in his body was completely depleted. Heart's sword divine ability, Taiji 8 trigrams. Yi Fei roared in anger. The dark steel heavy sword in his hands suddenly exploded with the most dazzling and brilliant sword light. This light tore apart the earth and shattered the sky. This was no longer an attack from a heavenly sovereign, nor was it an attack from a sovereign. This was an attack from the Lord of Heaven. Heavens! Lord of Heaven! What kind of freak is this kid? I'll fight you to the death. King Lu was completely terrified. Then, he activated the 3 divine runes on his sword and unleashed the Lord of Heaven's origin energy in an attempt to block Yi Fei's attack. Kill. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at King Lu's Lord of Heaven's origin energy. The Lord of Heaven's origin energy roared like a volcano within his body. At the same time, Yi Fei no longer held the dark steel heavy sword in his hand. Instead, it was an even more terrifying dark steel heavy sword. He slashed it forward. King Lu instantly realized that the dark steel heavy sword, which he had used up all his origin energy to activate, was like a piece of paper in front of the indestructible sword order. With a ripping sound, it was sliced into pieces. At the same time, his heavenly palace and soul were also sliced into pieces. King Lu's eyes widened in shock and fear as he slowly fell to the ground. Yi Fei didn't even look at King Lu's death. As he recalled the dragon turtle, Yi Fei's forehead was already filled with green veins. Each and every one of them looked as if they were about to explode. In the end, his body swelled up like a balloon, causing Yi Fei to instantly turn into a big fatty. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with intense fear. He had even used the indestructible sword order, but he still couldn't deplete the Lord of Heaven's origin energy in his body. He needed an even more intense and violent battle. In the entire Divine Star Academy, the craziest and most terrifying battle was undoubtedly the battle between the 2 Lord of Heaven, Ren Tianxing and King Chu. Chapter 2055. In the sky above the Divine Star Academy, the 2 figures of the Lord of Heaven were like 2 dazzling stars, constantly clashing and killing each other. Under the attacks of the Lord of Heaven, large swathes of space were torn apart. King Chu stood in the middle of the shattered space. His body was surrounded by gusts of cold wind. A mysterious stone door was constantly emitting layers of white light under King Chu's control. This light was extremely terrifying. When it shone on the body of a ruler of the Divine Star Academy, that ruler's flesh and blood melted like snow. In the end, only the ruler's soul was left. Under the protection of the Heavenly Palace and Fate Wheel, it rushed out of the broken body and tried to escape. Feng. But King Chu didn't let him escape. The door behind him suddenly appeared in front of the ruler's soul. It was like the mouth of an evil spirit, cruelly devouring the ruler's soul. 7th Uncle, Jiangzhen, who was standing far away, suddenly let out a sorrowful howl of rage. The one who had died earlier was the vice-headmaster of the Divine Star Academy, and was also one of the elders that Jiang Zhen respected the most. Originally, this elder could have used the divine star constellation to escape, but in the end, he chose to stay behind and fight for the sake of the Divine Star Academy. He died for the Academy. Seventh uncle wasn't the only ruler who had died in such a tragic manner. In the sky, there were still rulers of the Divine Star Academy who were hit by the mysterious white light. Their flesh and blood melted, and their souls were devoured by the door. This was the ability of the Lord of Heaven of the royal family, the Gate of Hell. It was also the strongest ability that the Sky River Lord had left behind for the royal family. When this ability was released, King Chu seemed to have transformed into an emissary of Hell. Large amounts of white light shot out from the Gate of Hell. Any ruler of the Divine Star Academy who was hit by this light died on the spot. Ren Tianxing's eyes were filled with tears of grief. In the end, he turned into a burning divine star and charged towards King Chu, trying to take him down with him. However, King Chu was extremely cunning. He had never intended to fight to the death with Ren Tianxing. After all, with the current strength of the royal family, it would not be too difficult for them to eradicate the Divine Star Academy. What King Chu wanted to do now was to use the smallest price to slowly drag Ren Tianxing, the Lord of Heaven, to death. As long as Ren Tianxing died, without the Lord of Heaven, the Divine Star Academy would be like a herd of sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Hence, King Chu had been stalling for time, waiting for King Lu to bring the Ghost General back and join forces with him to attack Ren Tianxing. Unfortunately, King Chu did not see the return of the Ghost General. Instead, he saw an unexpected figure charge into the sky from the ground and directly into the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven. Yi Fei, he's not dead. He actually charged towards the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven. Jiang Zhen widened his eyes in disbelief. Originally, when he saw King Lu bring the Ghost General down, Jiang Zhen thought that Yi Fei had already died in battle or had escaped. However, the truth was that not only did Yi Fei not die in battle, he even charged into the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven with incomparable ferocity. This scene not only caused Jiang Zhen to be dumbfounded, even Ren Tianxing widened his eyes in disbelief. This kid, what kind of freak is he? Yi Fei, you are Yi Fei, the lowly commoner who killed King Qi? What is that trash King Lu doing? Even with the Ghost General, he still hasn't killed this kid. Die for this king. King Chu did not expect that it was Yi Fei who killed King Lu and the Ghost General and charged into the sky. Instead, he assumed that Yi Fei was being chased by King Lu and the Ghost General and had accidentally charged into the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven. Naturally, King Chu would not be courteous. His face was ferocious as the gates of hell behind him. Suddenly, he unleashed all his strength and shone it in front of him. Boom! The rulers of both sides only saw a pale white divine light shoot out from the gates of hell. It was about to melt Yi Fei's flesh and blood and destroy his soul. Ren Tianxing's face was suddenly filled with immense grief. Even if this old man dies, I will not let you destroy this child and destroy the last hope of Dutian. This Lord of Heaven completely exploded. He suddenly increased his speed, and his body flashed like lightning in front of Yi Fei, blocking the pale white light beam. Haha, Ren Tianxing, you've been tricked. A sinister smile suddenly appeared on King Chu's face. He seemed to have predicted that Ren Tianxing would protect Yi Fei with all his might. Therefore, although King Chu's gates of hell seemed to be attacking Yi Fei, his true target had always been Ren Tianxing, the Lord of Heaven. In King Chu's eyes, even if Yi Fei had charged into the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven, he was no more than an ant that had charged into a land of death. At the same time, King Chu and Ren Tianxing had overlooked the berserk aura on Yi Fei that was comparable to the Lord of Heaven's. And this aura, when Yi Fei entered the battlefield, when Yi Fei faced the pale white light of the gates of hell, when Yi Fei faced the gates of hell, it completely exploded. Roar. Yi Fei suddenly let out a roar that sounded like vicious beasts. At this moment, The heavy dark steel heavy sword suddenly exploded with a terrifying sword light brighter than the stars. The moment this sword light passed by Ren Tianqing, it tore through the pale white light of hell and slashed straight at King Chu. This is impossible. Heavenly monarch, this brat, how could he have such a terrifying aura of a heavenly monarch? Ren Tianqing was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Before he had decided to save Yi Fei, he had already been prepared to be seriously injured by King Chu. However, the power that Yi Fei had suddenly erupted with made Ren Tianqing's hair stand on end. Of course, the one who was most terrified was King Chu. He could not believe that Yi Fei, who was clearly a heavenly venerate, could suddenly erupt with an aura comparable to the Lord of Heaven. This was not Yi Fei's power, but the power of the Lord of Heaven that had been refined by the indestructible sword's soul after it had swallowed the ghost general. Before this power was exhausted, Yi Fei's combat strength was truly comparable to the Lord of Heaven's. Boom! In the end, Ren Tianqing and the other rulers saw the powerful Lord of Heaven being smashed by Yi Fei's dark steel heavy sword. Little bastard, you, die. Dead people should not speak. Is the royal family that great? Today, I will kill all of you. I want to kill. Roar, roar, roar. Yi Fei suddenly roared. 8 nomological heavenly dragons rushed out of his body and formed a heavenly dragon sword. As he smashed King Chu, the 8 nomological heavenly dragons formed a divine sword that continuously bombarded King Chu's Hell's Gate. Even though the 8th-level heavenly dragon was only a heavenly venerate mystic ability and was inferior to King Chu's Lord of Heaven mystic ability, the Hell's Gate, Yi Fei's body had swallowed the entire origin source of a ghost general of the Lord of Heaven. When Yi Fei continuously released this origin source, the number of 8th-level heavenly dragons increased. Chapter 2056. Ah, I understand now. It's you, a lowly Empyrean realm commoner. You destroyed nearly 10,000 of my royal family's baleful energy. You even dared to swallow the strongest ghost general and kill King Lu. Lowly commoner, I want you dead. I want your life. Kill. Wind wave dragon snake slash. King Chu was so angry that he went berserk. In the time it took for Yi Fei to destroy the gates of hell, King Chu had already used his divine perception to see King Lu's corpse on the ground, as well as the ghost general's tattered body. This heavenly monarch of the imperial clan finally understood why Yi Fei would suddenly possess such a terrifying power. Strength. Yi Fei had actually used some unknown method to swallow the ghost general and obtain the ghost general's strength. This strength made King Chu fearful, but it also made him want to kill Yi Fei. One had to know that the Sky River royal family was best at refining baleful energy and controlling corpse soldiers. And Yi Fei seemed to be the baleful energy's greatest nemesis, as well as the Sky River royal family's greatest nemesis. How could King Chu allow Yi Fei to continue living when facing such a dangerous person? At this moment, King Chu suddenly changed his plan of slowly dragging out the fight and dragging Ren Tianqing to death. Instead, he suddenly exploded with the strongest power of the Lord of Heaven. A layer of soft human skin armor suddenly appeared in his body. This was also a special spiritual treasure made from the Lord of Heaven's human skin. When King Chu revealed this treasure, his body suddenly burned with ghostly fire that soared into the sky, forming another gate. The Gate of Ghost Domain. Roar, roar, roar. When the Gate of Ghost Domain opened, the rulers that King Chu had killed suddenly turned into malicious ghosts and charged out of the Gate of Ghost Domain. They crazily pounced on Yi Fei. Kill. Veins popped out on Yi Fei's face like springs, as if they were about to explode at any moment. The Lord of Heaven's source energy surged within his body like a raging inferno, like a huge wave, surging violently. Yi Fei didn't even look at the approaching malicious ghost. He only raised his dark steel heavy sword and slashed wildly. Smash! Even though Yi Fei didn't have the Lord of Heaven's mystique, Yi Fei's violent physical strength and the source of the Lord of Heaven, which was on the verge of exploding, made Yi Fei's attack even more terrifying than the Lord of Heaven's mystique. Wherever his heavy sword passed, the space was smashed into pieces. Countless vengeful spirits exploded like fireworks under the heavy sword. That kind of might and power made even Ren Tianxing, the Lord of Heaven, shudder in fear. It also made the boiling killing intent in King Chu's eyes reach its peak. Damned lowly commoner, don't think that you are the Lord of Heaven just because you devoured the ghost general. In front of the true Lord of Heaven, you lowly commoner are not even dogs. Die! King Chu suddenly roared. The vengeful spirits of the ghost domain gate had bought King Chu some time. During this time, King Chu only did two things. One was to put on the human skin soft armor to weaken Yi Fei's violent heavy sword. The other was to quickly take out his own weapon. It was a divine saber that was very similar to King Lu's. However, King Chu's was not a rank 3 heavenly soldier, but a rank 4 Dao weapon. In other words, if this divine saber was fully activated, the power it could unleash was equivalent to an attack from a Dao Lord. And such an attack was enough to instantly turn Yi Fei into ashes. At this moment, King Chu was roaring. He used all his strength and burned his own source to activate the rank 4 divine inscriptions on this divine saber and unleash an attack from the Lord of Heaven. Not good, Yi Fei, retreat quickly. That is a rank 4 spiritual enhancement weapon left behind by the Sky River Dao Lord. That is a Dao weapon. When he saw King Chu take out this weapon, Ren Tianxing broke out in a cold sweat. Yi Fei also felt a chill run down his spine. However, when he sensed that the Lord of Heaven's source was still as violent as a raging inferno in his body, Yi Fei was filled with fear. At the same time, he made up his mind and roared angrily, "No, I can't retreat. Once I retreat, the Lord of Heaven's source in my body will immediately explode me to death. Only by fighting, non-stop fighting, crazy fighting, and desperate fighting can I have a way to survive. Don't come over. Watch me kill, watch me fight. King Chu, I will fight to the death with you today. Kill, 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 kill." Yi Fei roared angrily. His roar was like the roar of a dragon, like the fury of a demon god. In addition to the black iron heavy sword, a black gold divine sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The moment he took out this divine sword, the entire world seemed to have stopped. Only the divine sword in Yi Fei's hand had an indestructible sword light that could destroy the world. In an instant, it tore apart King Chu's ghost realm door. This also gave King Chu no time to activate the rank 4 divine inscriptions. King Chu had already hurriedly waved the dragon snake blade that had activated the rank 3 divine inscriptions and clashed wildly with Yi Fei's indestructible sword token. Then, there was a loud bang. It was as if a mountain had exploded in the sky. Amidst the dust in the sky, Yi Fei's sword light was indestructible and invincible. It seemed to emit an indestructible divine light. However, King Chu's arm was empty. Not only did the rank 4 Dao weapon left behind by the Sky River Dao Lord explode, but it also exploded. King Chu's arm also exploded. How could this be? The nearby sovereigns who were watching the battle all exclaimed in horror. When Yi Fei had rushed into the battlefield of the Lord of Heaven, none of them had expected that Yi Fei would be able to unleash the terrifying battle strength of the Lord of Heaven as a heavenly venerate. They never expected that not only had Yi Fei shattered King Chu's door to Hell and Ghost Realm door, he had even shattered King Chu's Dao artifact in a terrifying manner. He had even crippled one of King Chu's arms. Even though King Chu was an expert of the Lord of Heaven, he could not help but cry out in anger and fear after suffering such heavy injuries. He had lost. He had not lost to the Lord of Heaven, Ren Tianxing, but to a heavenly venerate who was as insignificant as an ant. This was a humiliation, a great humiliation. The immense humiliation caused King Chu to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he almost died on the spot. However, as a heavenly monarch, King Chu was still severely injured. When he realized that King Lu and Ghost General had died in battle, he let out a loud roar and turned around to flee. King Chu, a heavenly monarch, was actually killed by a heavenly monarch ant. He had lost an arm and abandoned the crowd to flee? The sovereign's morale plummeted. The remaining sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy had their morale greatly boosted. Jiangzhen could not help but roar into the sky as 2 streams of hot tears of blood flowed down his face. Kill. As long as the will to battle is not extinguished, the Divine Star Academy will not be destroyed. As a guest, Yi Fei was willing to sacrifice himself for us. What are we afraid of? What are we waiting for? Kill the traitors. Kill. 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 Following Yi Fei's powerful sword strike and Jiangzhen's blood-soaked cry, all the surviving teachers and disciples within the academy went mad. Then, they went completely mad. They formed groups of 3 to 5, and as if they had suddenly gone mad, they charged towards the imperial family and the army that had once slaughtered them. As for the imperial army, after He Chun, Wang Zongshan, and King Lu had been defeated one after another, and their commander, King Chu, had abandoned his men and fled, the army had collapsed like a landslide. Deserters and celestial sovereigns were fleeing everywhere. However, they could not escape from the Divine Star Academy. In the sky, the awakened Lord of Heaven, Ren Tianxing, was like an insurmountable mountain, pulling everyone out of the academy. In the sky, Yi Fei's eyes were bloodshot. He completely ignored the heavenly venerates and sovereigns of the royal family. His only target was King Chu, the Lord of Heaven. Chapter 2057. King Chu, didn't you want to kill me? I'm right here. Come and kill me. Yi Fei raised his sword and roared. He was still 100 meters away from King Chu, but he could no longer resist the violent Lord of Heaven's origins in his body. He brandished the black iron heavy sword with one hand, causing the space it passed through to explode. His other hand raised the black gold sword high. The surging Lord of Heaven's origins was injected into it, causing the divine sword to form a terrifying sword beam that was indestructible and indestructible. This sword beam tore through the world and transformed into a terrifying sword river that slashed at the fleeing King Chu. King Chu's face was immediately filled with immense rage and grievance. Yi Fei, Demon King Yi, you little bastard! Chase after me if you have the guts. When the Lord of Heaven's origins in your body is completely depleted, this king will personally shatter your bones to avenge my severed arm. King Chu's escape was wise. If he stayed, he would only be besieged to death by Yi Fei and Ren Tianxing. By temporarily retreating, he would also deplete Yi Fei's Lord of Heaven's origins. This was King Chu's final plan. However, King Chu had neglected one point. The Lord of Heaven's origins enhanced Yi Fei in all aspects. Not only did Yi Fei's offensive strength reach the Lord of Heaven's level under Ghost General's violent Lord of Heaven's origins, even Yi Fei's speed reached the Lord of Heaven's level under the stimulation of the Lord of Heaven's origins. Therefore, no matter how fast King Chu fled, there was no way he could escape Yi Fei's pursuit. Instead, it was Yi Fei who took advantage of King Chu's severed arm to suddenly take a step forward and charge in front of King Chu. The heavy black iron heavy sword and the black gold sword slashed out together. They formed a special dual sword divine ability that smashed the space behind King Chu into nothingness. A trace of fear immediately appeared on King Chu's face. However, he was the true Lord of Heaven after all. The moment he sensed danger, King Chu roared furiously and forcefully burned his Lord of Heaven's origins. His aura became even more powerful as he took out a third-stage divine saber. It blocked the indestructible sword token's attack, and before the indestructible sword token could sever the divine saber, the heavenly monarch, King Chu, suddenly disregarded his status and image and started rolling on the ground. His rolling speed was extremely fast, and in almost a blink of an eye, he had rolled a few hundred meters away. However, before King Chu rolled out, Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword smashed heavily on King Chu's calf. There was a loud zest. King Chu's calf bone had already been shattered. It also angered King Chu to the point that he let out an extremely sullen roar. Damn it, I, by Chuzhen, am a mighty lord of heaven. To think that a country bumpkin heavenly venerate would sever one of my arms and break one of my legs. Yi Fei, I'll fight it out with you. The immense humiliation made King Chu's eyes turn red. He limped up from the ground but did not turn back. Instead, he continued to frantically flee into the distance like an injured and enraged wolf. King Chu, where are you going? Yi Fei was already prepared to withstand King Chu's desperate attacks. But despite King Chu's ferocious words, all he cared about was fleeing. Yi Fei was also enraged. The Lord of Heaven's origins in his body was still rampaging. If King Chu were to escape, where would he go to find another Lord of Heaven to exhaust the terrifying energy in his body? Quantity? Without giving King Chu a chance to escape, the Lord of Heaven's origins in Yi Fei's body burned crazily as if it was free of charge. The black gold divine sword in his hand once again emitted a terrifying and indestructible sword light as it slashed towards King Chu. It also scared King Chu so much that his soul almost left his body. Could it be that King is going to die in the hands of this junior today? At this moment, a terrifying dark force shockwave suddenly exploded in the sky above the Imperial City. That shockwave was too terrifying. The whistling dark force shockwave formed a dark force hurricane that engulfed the entire Imperial City. That was the death of the Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven had suddenly perished in the direction of the Lin family. Not good, the Lin family is finished. That old man Lin Xiong has died in battle. Yi Fei, quickly retreat. Within the Divine Star Academy, Ren Tianxing was currently encircling the ruler of the Imperial family. When he felt the dark force hurricane in the sky above the Imperial City, even if it was the Lord of Heaven, Ren Tianxing's face suddenly turned pale. Yi Fei's heart also trembled violently. The Lin family was finished. The other Lord of Heaven and the Ghost General of the Imperial family would also be freed up to attack the Divine Star Academy. As the person who devoured the Ghost General, killed King Qi, King Lu, and pursued King Chu, he would definitely become a thorn in the side of the Imperial family, a thorn in their flesh. Thinking of this, Yi Fei no longer dared to continue fighting. He kept the indestructible sword token and turned around to return to the Divine Star Academy. However, his reaction was still a beat too slow. In the distant sky, the Ghost General's unique sharp ghost voice could be heard. On the Ghost General's body, there was a person following him. It was a cold and gloomy old man wearing a dragon robe. This old man was the old emperor of the Tianhe Kingdom, the other Lord of Heaven of the Imperial family. King Chu, you have disappointed me too much. How many resources did my Imperial family spend to nurture you to become the Lord of Heaven? In the end, you were chased by a mere heavenly venerate ant until you were battered and exhausted. The old emperor rode the Ghost General as he rode over. In the hands of the old emperor, the Ghost General had already become a special divine weapon of the Lord of Heaven. In the blink of an eye, it rushed to within a few hundred meters of Yi Fei. Its sinister ghost claws formed gusts of cold wind as it suddenly clawed at Yi Fei's vital point in the sky. Scram! Yi Fei was enraged. Since it was impossible to retreat, he might as well take out the indestructible sword token and refine the Ghost General as well. King Chu also let out a fearful roar. Your Majesty, be careful. This kid is very strange. The sword in his hand seems to be even more powerful than a Dao weapon. It can even devour the baleful soldier Ghost General. The old emperor was also shocked, but then he sneered disdainfully. He arrogantly attacked and said, "So what? He can devour the Ghost General because King Lu, who controls the Ghost General, is a piece of trash. My Ghost General is not that easy to devour. Kill. Ghost God Dragon Snake Slash. The ghost general under the old emperor's feet suddenly shrieked. Its withered corpse suddenly became tougher than any divine weapon. It actually collided fiercely with Yi Fei's black divine sword. This time, the indestructible sword token was actually unable to pierce through the ghost general's body and refine its origin. This was because when the indestructible sword token came into contact with the ghost general's corpse claws suddenly erupted with the terrifying power of a late-stage sovereign. This old emperor could actually use corpses as weapons. He could turn the heavenly corpse ghost general into a heavenly corpse ghost general. It was like a heavenly weapon that was attached to a spiritual weapon. Yi Fei finally realized how lucky he was to be able to use the indestructible sword soul to devour the ghost general controlled by King Lu. This was because King Lu could only control the ghost general. He couldn't be like the old emperor, who could use the ghost general as a spiritual weapon. Then, he felt a sharp pain in his body. His entire body had been smashed from the sky to the ground, creating a huge crater that was dozens of meters deep. Chapter 2058. Aunt, you're too weak. You're laughably weak, pitifully weak. Do you think you're worthy of going against the royal family and being my enemy? You're too stupid. However, since you've brought me a weapon that surpasses a Dao soldier, I'll make an exception and allow you to become a corpse soldier for eternity as a loyal servant of the royal family. Dog. Die. Compared to King Chu, the old emperor was more direct and ruthless. The Sky River royal family was an expert at refining corpses. At this moment, the old emperor had activated his corpse refining technique to control the ghost general to grab Yi Fei. He wouldn't kill Yi Fei, but would refine Yi Fei into something like the Sky Corpse Ghost General. A corpse soldier. At this moment, King Chu stood up with a venomous expression and charged at Yi Fei furiously. Little bastard, weren't you very arrogant just now? When His Majesty refines you into a corpse soldier, I'll make you the first to kneel before me. Hearing the old emperor's words, Yi Fei smiled. His smile was very cold, but also very determined. Old emperor, kill me if you dare. If you can't kill me today, I'll kill you another day. Octopole Celestial Dragon, Heart Sword. Roar, roar, roar. Yi Fei ignored his heavy injuries and charged out of the pit. The Octopole Celestial Dragon roared out of his body again, and the Taiji 8 trigrams sword formed from the Heart Sword slashed at King Chu. This gave King Chu a huge fright. What kind of freak is this kid? He can still fight after taking a late-stage attack from the Lord of Heaven. One had to know. The old emperor wasn't an ordinary late-stage Lord of Heaven. He had a corpse soldier transformed from a ghost general. This made the old emperor's attack even more terrifying than an ordinary late-stage Lord of Heaven. He was almost at the level of a Dao Lord. This was also why the old emperor could quickly kill Lin Xiong, the Lord of Heaven, and come to King Chu's rescue. When he saw that Yi Fei wasn't using a Lord of Heaven's mystique but a heavenly venerates, the old emperor couldn't help but smile cruelly and mockingly. Hee. The struggles of ants are always so futile and laughable. This corpse pit is a grave that I have specially prepared for you. Who allowed a dead person like you to jump out? Who allowed a lowly corpse soldier like you to stand and talk to me? Scram down and kneel before me until you die. The old emperor was enraged. Eradicating the Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy was a grand plan that the royal clan had been plotting for hundreds of years. And this plan was nearly ruined by a mere Empyrean ant time and time again. This time, the old emperor was truly enraged. He once again activated the Ghost General and used the strongest Ghost General of the royal family, the Dragon Snake Slash. He mercilessly attacked Yi Fei. He wanted to force Yi Fei back into the pit and make Yi Fei kneel before the royal family in the most humiliating way possible. Yi Fei was instantly enraged. He knew that if he didn't go all out, he wouldn't be able to withstand the late-stage attack of the Lord of Heaven. He simply ignited all the Lord of Heaven's essence in his body, forming a shocking sword fire of the Lord of Heaven that slashed forward. But what made Yi Fei despair was that the difference in cultivation level between him and the old emperor was too great. This kind of difference couldn't be made up even with the Lord of Heaven's essence. With a loud boom, his 8 extreme celestial dragons and his heart sword mystique were cleanly destroyed by the ghost general's dragon snake form. Then, a dark cloud of death completely enveloped Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's body began to turn cold and his breathing almost stopped. Then, a thunderous roar sounded in Yi Fei's ears. Boiling hot blood had already spilled all over his body. But that wasn't his blood. Why? Yi Fei's eyes widened as he looked at Ren Tianqing, whose body had been pierced by the ghost general's corpse claw. He saw that the Lord of Heaven had actually rushed in front of him and used his own body to block the old emperor's killing blow. Ren Tianqing turned his head and smiled faintly. Why are you willing to risk your life for the Divine Star Academy? Moreover, this old man has always wanted to know how Dutian died. Only when this corpse claw pierced through my body and left behind this stinking corpse armor did I finally confirm that my younger brother was killed. Just who was the one who killed him? By Shenzhen. Your Majesty, my disciple was indeed killed by you. This corpse armor is the proof. Pooh. Ren Tianqing raised his hand and chopped off the ghost general's corpse claw that had pierced through his body. Then, he picked up the corpse claw and saw that there was indeed a finger on it that was missing a nail. This also caused Jiang Zhen, who had rushed over, to tremble. He then looked at the old emperor with incomparable rage. The old emperor. It's you, it's really you. Back then, the one who killed senior brother Dutian had a piece of corpse armor in his body. That's right, Chen Dutian was killed by me. That lowly commoner didn't know what was good for him and actually dared to snatch a treasure from my royal family. Hateful that he was alone and didn't have a family. Otherwise, I would have sent troops to exterminate his entire family. But now, it's the same as exterminating the Divine Star Academy. Anyone who obstructs me, I will kill. Kill his head, exterminate his entire family. All soldiers, kill for me. Following the old emperor's command, an even stronger army appeared around the imperial city. Even more sovereigns appeared. After exterminating the Lin clan, the old emperor had decisively mobilized all the troops in the imperial city to exterminate the Divine Star Academy. This also caused many of the disciples who had escaped from the academy to cry out in fear. It's over, our Divine Star Academy is finished. It's all over. All of you, shut up. What's the point of crying? What's the use of crying? What's the use of begging for mercy? A man should strive for self-improvement, a man should kill. Life is earned through killing, not bestowed by the heavens or given by others. Yi Fei was impatient when he heard this. On the path of martial arts, one had to be prepared to die, and even more so, to fight. Yi Fei is right. A man of character, what harm is there in fighting? What is there to fear about death? However, us old people can die, but you juniors have to live on. This is especially so for you, Yi Fei. Remember Dutian's instructions. Remember everything that happened in my Divine Star Academy. In the future, if there's a possibility, help this old man seize the throne of the Divine Star Academy. Qing, destroy this group of filthy royal family members. His entire body was burning with the flames of the Lord of Heaven. Carrying the corpse claw, Ren Tianqing charged towards the army of the royal family, as well as the old emperor. But before that, he suddenly formed 2 palms of the Lord of Heaven. One of them grabbed Yi Fei, the other grabbed Jiang Zhen, and fiercely threw them into the depths of the Divine Star Academy. Senior Ren. Yi Fei suddenly had a bad premonition. Master. Jiang Zhen's tears gushed out like a fountain. Every drop was a crimson tear of blood. But the palms of the Lord of Heaven that grabbed them were too strong. They were so strong that Yi Fei and Jiangzhen were unable to break free. In the end, Yi Fei and Jiangzhen could only watch helplessly as Ren Tianxing, the principal of the Lord of Heaven, fought with the old emperor with an even stronger battle intent and hatred despite his injuries. On the ground, King Chu's venomous face could be seen. Glaring at Yi Fei, he charged towards Yi Fei like a malicious spirit. "Little bastard, where do you think you are going? Without the power of the Lord of Heaven, this king will tear you to pieces." Chapter 2059. But at this moment, a loud voice rang out from the Divine Star Academy's group. "King Chu, your opponents are us. Scram, a bunch of Dominator ant. Those who block me will die." King Chu's face was filled with disdain. He didn't even place the Dominators of the Divine Star Academy in his eyes. The Dominators of the Divine Star Academy suddenly burst into laughter. "King Chu, the principal has said that as a martial artist, so what if we fight? Why should we fear death? Old fogies, it's time for us to shine. The Divine Star Academy can be destroyed, but the will of our martial artists will never yield. Farewell to this world. Principal, we'll take our leave first." Boom! The last thing Yi Fei saw was the figures of the older generation Dominators burning their life force as they charged towards King Chu and self-destructed. They used their own lives to protect Yi Fei and Jiangzhen. They even used their own lives to illustrate the unyielding and heroic nature of martial artists. "These are all respectable people," Yi Fei muttered to himself. Soon after, an even louder and more intense explosion rang out in his ears. It was the last dozen Dominators of the Divine Star Academy. They held hands as they surrounded King Chu, the newly crowned Lord of Heaven. Their bodies suddenly expanded. This caused King Chu's confident face to suddenly reveal extreme shock and fear. "Crazy! You people of the Divine Star Academy have all gone crazy. You're the one who made us go crazy. Since the royal family doesn't want us to live, since your majesty is determined to kill my disciple and destroy my Divine Star Academy, so what if we go crazy? So what if we die? Remember, death isn't scary. What's scary is compromising and yielding. The Divine Star Academy will never yield." Boom! Ren Tianxing's thunderous roar echoed in the sky above the imperial city. He had burned all of his source energy and used up all of his lifespan. This heavenly lord's face was rapidly aging. His originally black hair was now snow white, and every single one of them was burning. Ren Tianxing aged a little with every bit of his origin energy. The only thing that hadn't changed was Ren Tianxing's eyes, which were still as calm and clear as ever, as if he could see through the world of men, as if he could see through time and space. Then, just as the Emperor and the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General were about to grab him, the Lord of Heaven self-detonated. In the sky above the Imperial City, boundless profound energy hurricanes swept up once again. Another Lord of Heaven had fallen. Dean. Seeing the thundercloud like profound energy storm exploding in the sky, the surviving teachers and disciples of the Divine Star Academy all cried out in grief. However, what answered them was an even louder and more dazzling explosion of a sovereign. When Ren Tianxing self-detonated, the last 10 sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy also destroyed their own heavenly palaces, divine souls, and fate wheels. Around the thundercloud, there were specks of Xian-Qi tornadoes that surrounded the thundercloud, like a group of stars surrounding the bright moon. When he heard the Lord of Heaven's self-detonation, Yi Fei's heart suddenly twitched violently, filled with anger, pain, and desolation. He knew that when the sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy self-detonated, when Ren Tianxing, the Lord of Heaven, self-detonated, his fate was connected to the Divine Star Academy. His fate was completely tied to the Divine Star Academy. From today onwards, I am no longer a guest elder of the Divine Star Academy, but a member of the Divine Star Academy. From today onwards, the hatred of the Divine Star Academy is my hatred, and the hatred of the Divine Star Academy is my hatred. Old Emperor King Chu, just you wait. As long as I, Yi Fei, am not dead, there will be a day when I will flatten this imperial city. I will destroy your rotten royal family. The entire imperial city resounded with Yi Fei's roar. There was also Jiang Zhen's sorrowful roar. But very quickly 2 furious figures rushed out from the whirlpool of the Lord of Heaven's self-detonation. It was the old emperor and the ghost general he controlled. The old emperor was after all a late-stage expert of the Lord of Heaven, and he had a special ghost general corpse soldier in his hands. Ren Tianxing's self-detonation didn't kill the old emperor, but only injured him. However, King Chu, who was simultaneously detonated by the 10 sovereigns, was severely injured. Covered in blood, he collapsed on the ground, his face filled with fear and uneasiness. This caused the old emperor's expression to turn even uglier. He stared at the sky where Ren Tianxing had self-detonated and suddenly let out a loud ghost howl. Ren Tianxing, you are ruthless. You would rather self-detonate than leave your corpse behind. But you will not succeed in your goal. The Divine Star Academy will be destroyed. I command you to exterminate the rebels of the Divine Star Academy. Not a single one of them can be left alive. Kill. Hearing the Emperor's command, countless soldiers from all directions brandished their weapons and charged into the Divine Star Academy. There were corpses everywhere, and there were screams of unwillingness and anger. However, the old emperor's expression didn't change at all. He continued to move forward with the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General and chased after Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen as fast as he could. However, the old emperor was still a step too late. Just as he rushed into the Divine Star Realm, a voice suddenly rang out. The entire divine planet started to shake violently. Then, a piece of the divine planet that was as big as a mountain turned into a meteor and shot up into the sky, out of the imperial city. Bang! Along the way, the Divine Star Academy smashed through the buildings and walls, leaving behind a huge ravine and ruins. This was the true life-saving measure of the Divine Star Academy. When he saw the Divine Star Academy smashing through the city walls and flying out of the imperial city, the old emperor suddenly became as angry as a ghost, roaring at the sky. King Chu clenched his severed arm. He was so angry that he clenched his severed arm so hard that it bled. Darn ant, I never expected you to escape with your life. No, you can't let him escape. It doesn't matter if Jiang Zhen lives or dies, but that Yi Fei must die. He must die. Your Majesty, you can't let Yi Fei off. There's something strange about that lowly commoner, something very strange. King Chu ignored his injuries and suddenly struggled to shout at the sky. His roar finally made the angry old emperor sober up temporarily. When he thought about how Yi Fei could not only kill the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General, but also that the black gold divine sword in his hand could possibly be a treasure that surpassed a Dao soldier, the old emperor couldn't help but tremble violently. Ren Tianxing, is this the reason why you would rather die to protect him? I definitely won't let him live. I definitely won't let this scourge live. Send my orders, lock down the entire country. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen and kill them. As he spoke, the old emperor ignored his injuries and led the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General in a desperate chase in the direction of the Divine Star Academy. A large number of late-stage Sovereign Realm experts also chased after them. As for the heavily injured King Chu, he remained in the imperial city to exterminate the scattered resistance of the various clans. Day. Chapter 2060. The star energy of the Divine Star Fragment was extremely powerful. Carried Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen like a meteor and flew through the sky for a full 10 days before crashing to the ground. Once again, it smashed a huge divine star mountain into the ground. These 10 days were the most precious time for Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen to escape. Even with the speed of the Lord of Heaven, he wouldn't be able to catch up to them in a short period of time. However, Yi Fei didn't feel the slightest bit of joy from escaping. His life was given to Ren Tianxing and the countless old masters of the Divine Star Academy. They exchanged it with their lives. When the Divine Star landed, Yi Fei's mood was just like the Divine Star, becoming incomparably heavy. When Jiang Zhen jumped down from the Divine Star, he had already knelt down in the direction of the Imperial City and the Divine Star Academy with a loud thud. Following which, he started wailing loudly. Every drop of blood that fell from Jiang Zhen's body was filled with tears. They were all tears of blood. Xiao Qiao couldn't bear to see it. The dragon turtle's eyes turned red. Yi Fei also felt an indescribable sadness in his heart. However, now wasn't the time for them to be sad. Although the Divine Star Academy was destroyed, it didn't mean that the royal family would stop pursuing them. As long as they didn't leave the Tianhe country, they wouldn't be able to escape the royal family's pursuit. Therefore, even though he couldn't bear it, Yi Fei still walked over and patted Jiang Zhen's shoulder to comfort him. At the same time, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Senior Jiang, we may have escaped from the royal family, but the Lord of Heaven will soon catch up to us. What should we do now? You decide." As he spoke, Yi Fei suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion. It was the injury from the Ghost General when he fought with the old Emperor. After all, the old Emperor was an expert in the late stages of the Lord of Heaven, the #1 expert in the entire Tianhe country. However, because of that battle, he had finally used up all the power of the Lord of Heaven in his body and avoided the fate of exploding. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. After crying bitterly, Jiang Zhen calmed down. He wiped away the tears of blood and stared in the direction of the royal family. Suddenly, a shocking hatred flashed in his eyes. "I, Jiang Zhen, will definitely return to this royal family. Master used his life to exchange for our lives. I won't disappoint him. Senior apprentice brother Dutian will take revenge for Master. I, Senior Tian, will definitely avenge him. Yi Fei, come with me. Take all the resources of the Divine Star Academy. I will bring you to the Jiang family." The Jiang family was Jiang Zhen's family. Even though Jiang Zhen was only from a side branch, he was still a sovereign realm expert. He had even taken the heavenly monarch as his master. This gave him a very high status in the Jiang family. But when he heard that Jiang Zhen wasn't in a hurry to leave the Tianhe country and was instead rushing to the Jiang family, Yi Fei instinctively felt that something was wrong. After all, the royal family had endured for hundreds of years. Now that the royal family was determined to destroy the Lin family and the Divine Star Academy, they definitely wouldn't let Jiang Zhen's Jiang family go. Not only that, given the ruthlessness of the imperial clan of the Heavenly River Empire, they might have already made their move before the Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy. They might have already raised their blades against those who didn't submit to the imperial clan. Even the Jiang clan of Jiang Zhen wouldn't have been spared. "Senior Jiang," Yi Fei said with difficulty. "Yi Fei, let's hurry and take away all the treasures on the Divine Star Academy. These are the resources we need to rebuild the Divine Star Academy. They are also the capital we need to return to the Jiang family and recruit soldiers to fight against the royal family," Jiang Zhen said anxiously. They rushed to the Divine Star and started to collect all the treasures on it. Seeing Jiang Zhen's absent-minded appearance, Yi Fei sighed. In the end, he didn't reveal his conjecture. After all, it was human nature to protect one's family. Now, he only hoped that his conjecture was wrong and that the royal family hadn't made their move on the Jiang family yet. Or perhaps, the royal family's outside forces weren't enough to defeat the Jiang family. In the end, Yi Fei also rushed to the Divine Star and helped Jiang Zhen take out all the treasures. Then, with the fastest speed, they left the Divine Star and rushed to the nearest city. As for the Divine Star fragment, because it had already exhausted all the power of the stars, it couldn't be activated. Yi Fei and Jiangzhen could only reluctantly give it up and let it stay where it was, turning into an ordinary meteorite. One day, I, Jiangzhen, will bring the Jiang family back here. I will make this place where the Divine Star Academy fell into the new Divine Star Academy. Before Jiangzhen left, he suddenly made a solemn vow. Half an hour later, Jiangzhen brought Yi Fei and rushed to the nearest city. This is Wind City. There is a special transportation array that will allow us to rush back to Jiang City, where the Jiang family is at the fastest speed. I'm afraid that this Wind City has already been controlled by the royal family and is just waiting for us to take the bait. Yi Fei's expression was grave. He wasn't optimistic about entering Wind City. Unfortunately, his conjecture came true. Before they even got close to Wind City, Yi Fei saw a large number of heavenly venerables standing on the city walls, looking around. There wasn't a single person outside Wind City. Therefore, when Yi Fei and Jiangzhen got close, they were discovered by the martial artists on the city walls. These warriors immediately started shouting and wrangling. Patriarch, we've found traces of Jiangzhen and Demon Yi. They're right outside. Then what are we waiting for? Let's kill our way out and capture Jiangzhen and kill Yi Fei. The royal family has already promised that whoever kills Jiangzhen will obtain an emperor's throne cultivation technique and become a rank 8 family. Whoever captures Yi Fei will be conferred the title of prince and live a life of luxury. Kill them. Within Wind City, a dozen terrifying sovereigns suddenly rushed out. They were the sovereigns of the Wind City's Feng family. There were also some experts that had been sent by the royal family. The moment they discovered Yi Fei's traces, these sovereigns rushed out like a swarm of bees. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. How long has it been since I came to the celestial realm? Not only have I become a demon, but I've also become the enemy of the entire country. Senior Jiang, why don't we retreat? No, we can't retreat. I'm worried about the safety of the Jiang family. After all, that's my family. Yi Fei, you retreat first. I'll cover you. Jiangzhen's body was trembling. This wasn't fear, but worry. He was worried about his family. Yi Fei sighed again. He was indebted to the Divine Star Academy. At this moment, how could he be afraid of death and cling to life? Forget it. Isn't it just becoming the enemy of the entire country? Only a mediocre person wouldn't be envied. Didn't the royal family slander me as a demon? Then I, Yi Fei, will become a demon today. A murderous demon. The dark steel heavy sword struck out once again. It carried Yi Fei's anger, as well as Yi Fei's madness, as it rushed towards Wind City and the dozen or so sovereigns of the Feng family. When they saw that a junior heavenly venerate dared to take on a group of sovereigns, the Feng family's experts all laughed sinisterly. Ha ha, has this kid been scared silly? Facing us sovereigns, he doesn't know how to run for his life. He even dares to rush to his death. All of you, spread out. Watch this old man slap this heavenly venerate ant to death. Wind Cloud Fist. One of the Feng family's young sovereigns looked at Yi Fei with disdain and sent out a terrifying wind cloud mystique. At the same time, an astonishing aura of nomological laws erupted from Yi Fei's body. Golden body of laws, heavy sword cleaving mountain. Chapter 2061. This scene frightened the Feng family's sovereigns. At first, they hadn't thought much of a heavenly venerate like Yi Fei. However, none of the sovereigns dared to underestimate Yi Fei anymore. A few of the sovereigns from the imperial family seemed to have realized something. They roared in unison, "We know now. He's Yi Fei, the rumored demon king who's as evil as can be. His Majesty has already ordered that we would rather kill 1,000,000 innocents than let this demon go. Kill him!" The sovereigns of the royal family were ecstatic as they charged towards Yi Fei. After all, if they captured Yi Fei, they would be conferred the title of a king. Who wouldn't want a king? That was a title that was second only to one person and above tens of thousands of people. It was even more domineering than a rank 8 clan. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly when he saw the sovereigns charging towards him. After all, the Lord of Heaven's origin source in his body had already been exhausted. He couldn't create another legend of a heavenly venerate killing a sovereign and chasing down the Lord of Heaven. However, Yi Fei still didn't cower. He knew that retreating now would be suicide. All he could do was use all his strength to fight these sovereigns to the death. Yi Fei, stand down. Let me do it. At this moment, Jiang Zhen suddenly roared. In the face of numerous attacks, Jiang Zhen actually disregarded everything and madly ignited his sovereign quintessence. His potential and lifespan were rapidly burning away. At the same time, his combat strength was also rising madly. Kill. Jiang Zhen's fingers turned into claws and soared through the sky like an eagle. He crushed the head of the sovereign who had been sent flying by Yi Fei. Then, Jiang Zhen opened his palms and his profound qi formed a 5-colored divine bell. This was the Divine Star Academy's sovereign mystique, the Divine 5 Lightning Bell. Jiang Zhen's Divine 5 Lightning Bell enveloped him completely. 5-colored lightning surged and formed a chain of lightning. Another 2 sovereigns who tried to approach Yi Fei were charred black on the spot. They fell from the sky with heavy injuries. Jiang Zhen's ferocity shocked Yi Fei. Only now did he realize that the Divine Star Academy's reputation as the strongest sovereign wasn't undeserved. Jiang Zhen had said that he could take on 10 sovereigns at once. He hadn't been joking. Jiang Zhen was using the Divine 5 Lightning Bell to suppress the 10 sovereigns from the Feng family. No one was a match for Jiang Zhen. The Feng clan head was furious when he saw this. Jiang Zhen, you're nothing more than a stray dog that has lost its home. How arrogant can you be? Leave 10 sovereigns behind and surround this bastard with me. The rest of you, capture Yi Fei first. Kill. 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 The 10 sovereigns immediately formed a circle and attacked Jiang Zhen's 5 lightning divine clock, unleashing all sorts of powerful divine abilities. However, the divine abilities of the Divine Star Academy's sovereigns were truly extraordinary. Even though the divine clock was constantly being bombarded, it was unable to break through Jiang Zhen's protective divine clock. Jiang Zhen was even able to grab it. Even Yi Fei was able to seize the opportunity to launch his most ferocious counterattack. Ha ha ha, Demon Yi, without Jiang Zhen's protection, I'll see how you die this time. The Tianhe Kingdom's king is destined to belong to our Feng family. There were 13 sovereigns from the Feng family, including the royal family. Even though Jiang Zhen had killed one of them, the remaining 2 sovereigns who had been injured by the Divine 5 Lightning Bell joined forces and attacked Yi Fei. Yi Fei's eyebrows twitched. Then, he clenched his black iron heavy sword and swung it at one of the sovereigns. If you want the title of king, I'll send you to hell to become a ghost king. Kill. Boom. Boom. The heavy sword was like a mountain, like thunder, and like a huge wave. Yi Fei swung it to its limits. The 2 divine inscriptions on the sword ignited at the same time, granting Yi Fei even more intense divine power. When this power was released through the black iron heavy sword, it formed the most terrifying physical mystique. This mystique clearly had the power to kill early-stage sovereigns. Even though these 2 sovereigns weren't early-stage sovereigns, but mid-stage sovereigns, they had been injured by Jiang Zhen's Divine 5 Lightning Bell. Their fighting strength had been greatly reduced. Now, they were hit by Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword. The sovereign's chest was smashed open with a huge bloody hole. At the same time, the soul of an enraged sovereign emerged from the battered fleshly body. How dare you destroy my fleshly body, you insect! Kill him! Behead Leaf Devil! Kill! The other Feng clan sovereign suddenly closed in on Yi Fei with a sinister smile. His scimitar flickered with cold light as he swung it at Yi Fei's head from behind. However, a long black tortoise head suddenly appeared from Yi Fei's shoulder. its neck twisted in the opposite direction, and it spat out dense dragon flames at the sovereign. Fire! What's that? The sovereign jumped in fright. He didn't understand what was going on. Squeak! Realizing that Yi Fei was in danger, Xiao Qiao suddenly grabbed the dragon tortoise's black jar from the beast mark space and threw it out. He even smashed it against the sovereign's scimitar. There was a loud crack as the dragon tortoise's black jar was split in half. The dragon tortoise was so angry that it let out a heart-wrenching roar. Howling, he charged forward and slammed into the body of the sovereign lord. Only then did the sovereign see clearly that the one who had ambushed him was a martial god realm demonic tortoise. However, the tortoise's head was so black and fat that the sovereign was stunned when he saw it. While he was stunned, Yi Fei turned around coldly. The dark iron heavy sword in his hand whistled through the air. The dark iron star smashed into the sovereign's scimitar. There was a loud clang as the sovereign's scimitar was split in half by the dark iron heavy sword. Terror flashed across the sovereign's face. Without thinking, he retreated. However, Yi Fei didn't wait for the sovereign to retreat. He raised his scimitar and charged forward, smashing the dark iron heavy sword again. Once again, the sovereign's physical body was smashed to smithereens. Only his divine soul managed to escape in terror. Senior Jiang, let's go. Big Black, don't worry about your broken jar. Hurry up and follow me. Let's kill our way into Wind City. Yi Fei didn't continue to chase after the two souls. Instead, he raised his sword and charged toward Wind City's city gates. Jiang Zhen jumped in fright when he saw Yi Fei's actions. He hurriedly unleashed the power of the God Clock and charged out from the crowd. Yi Fei, we are surrounded now. If we don't take this opportunity to break out of the encirclement, why do we still have to enter the city? Yi Fei rolled his eyes. As he charged toward the city gates, he sent a voice transmission. It's precisely because we are surrounded that we have to go in the opposite direction. The Feng family has set up an ambush outside the city, so the city must be empty. Senior Jiang, if you want to return to the Jiang family, Wind City's teleportation platform is our only chance. Chapter 2062. Then we can only take a gamble. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with determination. Besides rushing into the city, he couldn't think of any other way to escape the pursuit of the sovereigns. If they stayed outside the city, they would only die faster. They would also be delayed by the sovereigns and buy time for the royal experts to catch up. On the contrary, rushing into the city would make it easier to fish in troubled waters. In any case, there was no Lord of Heaven powerhouse in Wind City right now. Moreover, all the sovereigns had appeared outside the city, besieging him and Jiang Zhen. Yi Fei was 70% sure that Wind City was incomparably empty right now. As for the other 30% of uncertainty, he had already thought of countermeasures. Bang! Relying on Jiang Zhen to bring up the rear, Yi Fei successfully broke through the gate of Wind City and rushed into the city. This scene was completely out of the expectation of the Feng family's patriarch. How could it be? They didn't escape out of the city, they actually killed their way into the Wind City. Not good. Their target is the transmission platform of the city gate. If they escape, not only will my Feng family not obtain the title of king, but we will also be punished by the royal family. The Feng family patriarch and the sovereigns of the Feng family had all gone crazy. They crazily rushed back into the city and attacked Yi Fei. And behind Yi Fei, Jiang Zhen's profound energy surged and condensed into a massive divine 5 thunder bell. It emitted a thunderous sound that blocked the attacks of all the sovereigns. Kill. But within Wind City, there was still a massive number of Feng family Empyreans. There were dozens, hundreds, and they formed a terrifying tide of Empyreans that wanted to prevent Yi Fei from approaching the transmission array platform. Seeing this, Yi Fei only sneered. He was even more certain that Wind City was weak. He had no intention of fighting with these Empyreans. Since there was a transmission array platform here, the royal family's experts could arrive at any time. To Yi Fei, the most important thing wasn't to fight, but to buy time to escape. Martial artists of Wind City, listen up. If you block our path, only death awaits you. Step aside. I, Demon Yi, will not only not kill anyone, I can even give you great benefit. Heavenly venerate divine abilities, sovereign cultivation arts, all sorts of heavenly treasures from the Divine Star Academy, spirit augmentation weapons, profound stones, profound veins, whatever you want. If you want it, then come. Pick it up quickly. Bang. Suddenly, more than 10 spatial belts appeared in Yi Fei's hand. Then, he steeled his heart and threw the belts into the air. Then, he attacked continuously with his sword, causing the space within the belts to explode. After losing the storage space, countless treasures flew out in all directions like rain. These treasures included cultivation techniques, mystiques, spirit augmentation weapons, and Xian stones and Xian meridians. They flew everywhere, especially those Xian meridians, which had spirit. When Yi Fei took these Xian meridians out of the spirit-gathering pagoda, he pulled them out. When he released all of his breath, the profound veins immediately turned into profound Qi dragons and instinctively escaped into the sky, wanting to rush out of Wind City and hide in the vast world. Boom! The entire Wind City also went crazy in front of the raining treasures. Suddenly, countless itinerant cultivators appeared on the previously deserted street. These people's eyes were all red as they rushed towards the treasures without any regard for their lives. In an instant, the Feng family's heavenly venerables were scattered. Get out of the way, get out of the way! You bunch of dregs, trash, country bumpkins, who allowed you to come out? Who allowed you to block our way? The Feng family patriarch and the imperial family's ruler were so angry that they almost went crazy. The originally deserted streets were suddenly blocked by countless itinerant cultivators. Even the sky was filled with a large number of warriors fighting for the treasures. How were they going to chase Yi Fei like this? How were they going to obtain the glory and wealth that belonged to the Feng family? Yi Fei's decisiveness completely caught the Feng family's ruler off guard. Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle were also heartbroken when they saw this. Then, something that made Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle even more heartbroken happened. Seeing that Yi Fei's method was effective, Jiang Zhen also endured the pain in his heart and threw out a large number of treasures. As he scattered them out, even more people rushed into the streets to fight for the treasures. Jiang Zhen suddenly had an idea. He took out a secret manual and threw it into the sky, in the direction of the Feng family's sovereigns. My Divine Star Academy's sovereign's cultivation technique is up there. It belongs to whoever can get it. What? The Divine Star Academy's ruler cultivation technique? The strongest 9 revolutions divine star art of the Tianhe country. Heavens, this old man must obtain this cultivation technique. This old man has been trapped in the heavenly venerate realm for hundreds of years. Little heavenly venerables, get lost. This ruler cultivation technique is destined to belong to my Li family. No, it belongs to my family, Wang. Get lost, all of you, get lost. All the treasures here belong to my Feng family. Do you small families still want to survive in Wind City? How dare you snatch the treasures of my Feng family? The entire Wind City was in complete chaos. At the beginning, there were only a few rogue cultivators who did not care about their lives, blocking the roads and looting the treasures. But as Jiang Zhen threw out the most famous 9 revolutions 7 stars technique of the Tianhe kingdom, even the many small clans and forces in the city were tempted. Countless old monsters, old men and old women, who were in seclusion, rushed over. Their lifespans were nearing the end of their lifespans, and they were even stronger than rogue cultivators. They fought fiercely in front of the Feng family's rulers, fighting for the 9 revolutions divine star art. Yi Fei couldn't help but give Jiang Zhen a thumbs up. Senior Jiang, well done. We have hope of escaping now. But is it really okay for you to throw away the 9 Revolutions Divine Star Art like this? After all, the 9 Revolutions Divine Star Art was the foundation of the Divine Star Academy. Hearing this, Jiangzhen suddenly grinned and winked at Yi Fei. What's wrong with that? I only threw out the first half. Even if they get it, they won't be able to learn it. At most, they can use it as a reference when breaking through to the ruler level. Yi Fei's face darkened. Who said that Jiangzhen was a wastrel? He would eat people up without spitting out the bones. However, by relying on Jiangzhen's determination to throw away the treasures, the rulers chasing after them were all drowned out by the chaotic crowd. Yi Fei and Jiangzhen used this time to rush to the transportation array of Wind City. At the location of the platform, seeing this scene, the rulers of the royal family couldn't help but roar. His Majesty has ordered that we must not let Yi Fei escape. We must kill him at all costs. But we're surrounded by people who want to snatch the treasures. We can't rush over. The Feng family head looked at the dense crowd with an ugly expression. We can't care so much. If we let Yi Fei escape, we won't be able to live. Let's kill. We'll kill anyone who tries to stop us. Kill. The rulers of the royal family took the initiative to attack. They didn't care who was the enemy and who was innocent. The rulers' mystique suddenly blasted into the crowd. However, their mystiques didn't kill the martial artists who tried to snatch the treasures. Instead, before the mystiques landed, 2 of the 4 who tried to snatch the treasures suddenly died. Help me stop the Sovereign Lord, and I'll give you the complete 9 transformations Godstar incantation. Yi Fei said this particularly loudly, as if he was afraid that the rulers of the imperial family would not be able to hear him. The remaining members of the Lin family were also hiding in Wind City. Lin Chen and Lin Rong almost died of anger on the spot. As they chased after Yi Fei, they scolded, "Yi Fei, do you think we're stupid? You want to use us as scapegoats so you can run for your life. If you want to be friends, fine. Today we'll die together. If you want to escape, we'll escape together. Uncle Cheng, Uncle Rong, let's go." As the 2 charged towards the teleportation platform, they didn't forget to call out to Lin Cheng and Lin Rong. Lin Cheng subconsciously retreated, but Lin Rong decisively roared, "Lin Cheng, retreat! I'm just a piece of trash at the Dominator realm. 50 years ago, I should have died at the hands of Chen Dutian. After living for so long, I'm tired of living like this. Kill." Snow fills heaven and earth. Lin Rong's withered body was like a withered tree that had been rejuvenated by spring. He erupted with a terrifying sovereign aura and killing intent. At this moment, he seemed to have once again become the #1 genius of the royal capital. He raised his spear, high-spirited and full of fighting spirit. He didn't retreat, only advancing. The resplendent divine spear transformed into a snowstorm that filled the sky. Bright red snow. Lin Rong, Lin Qing suddenly burst into tears. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were also crying bitterly. After all, these were the few remaining members of the Lin clan. Seeing this scene, Yi Fei could not help but sigh. He looked at Jiangzhen and shook his head. The imperial city's Lin clan still has some iron-blooded men. Senior Jiang, I've changed my mind. Originally, I wanted to use them to block the pursuers for us, but now I've realized that letting them live is better than letting them die. Their deaths are more valuable. Lin Chen and Lin Gui looked at Yi Fei in shock and fear. Lin Cheng wiped away his tears and suddenly knelt down in front of Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, back in the imperial city, you and I stood on different sides, so I had to kill you. But now, it's different. The Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy have been slaughtered by the merciless Emperor. This is not only a debt of blood for you, but also a debt of blood for us. A debt of blood must be repaid with blood. In the imperial city, I tried to kill you. Today, I, Lin Cheng, will repay you with my life. I only have one request. I beg you, take Lin Chen and Lin Gui with you. They are the last hope of our Lin clan, and also the last spark of our revenge." When they heard these words, Lin Chen and Lin Gui seemed to have thought of something as they turned to look at Lin Qing with pale faces. However, Lin Qing chuckled as he suddenly regained his arrogance in the imperial city. With a disdainful tone, he said, "Even that trash Lin Rong dared to sacrifice himself. How can I, Lin Qing, be afraid of death? Hurry up and teleport away. Leave the pursuers behind to me. And me, I'm not trash. I'm a genius. I, Lin Rong, am a genius. Ha ha ha." Lin Rong's weak yet arrogant laughter rang out from the sky. He was covered in blood, and his body had been torn to shreds by the imperial family and the Feng family's sovereigns. However, Lin Rong continued to laugh maniacally. He laughed arrogantly. Then Lin Qing laughed as well. He gripped the divine spear in his hand tightly. His entire body was burning with origin source divine light. He laughed and rushed forward. "Lin Rong, you're finally alive. But today, I can only die with you. Uncle Rong, Uncle Cheng." Lin Gui's limbs were cold and his face was pale. Lin Chen roared, his eyes red. He wanted to die with them, but at that moment, a hand grabbed him. It was Yi Fei's hand. Even though he had grudges with the Lin family, Lin Rong and Lin Cheng's bravery in dying still moved him. Regardless of whether they were friends or foes, at the very least, these two rulers were worthy of respect. Thus, Yi Fei decided to let go of their past grudges and grabbed Lin Chen. Jiang Jin grabbed Lin Gui, who was still in a daze. The four of them rushed to the teleportation platform and quickly activated the runes on the teleportation platform. Boom! Boom! When the runes lit up, Yi Fei suddenly heard two shocking sounds of self-detonation. Just like the sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy, Lin Qing and Lin Rong, the two sovereigns of the Lin clan, also chose to self-detonate. This didn't mean that they were brave and unafraid of death. Chapter 2064. What did you say? Yi Fei has escaped, Jiang Zhen has escaped, and even the two remaining members of the Lin family have escaped. What are you all doing? You have so many rulers. Can't you deal with a few stray dogs? The royal family reacted quickly. When they received news that Yi Fei had appeared in Wind City, King Chu, who was eager to avenge his severed arm, had already rushed over. However, he was still a step too late. All he saw was a city full of corpses. The Feng family patriarch looked at the corpses in dismay. Those who had been killed by the self-detonation of rulers were all heavenly venerate experts of the Feng family. Originally, the Feng family had attacked Yi Fei to curry favor with the royal family. In the end, not only had they failed to curry favor with the royal family, but the Feng family had also suffered heavy losses. This made the Feng family patriarch extremely regretful. His intestines turned green. Even so, King Chu refused to let the Feng family patriarch off. He pointed at the Feng family patriarch's nose and scolded, "Feng Yuan, you old bastard. Tell me, did you deliberately let Yi Fei go? Otherwise, why couldn't you stop a heavenly venerate ant with so many rulers?" Whoosh! The Feng family patriarch's face turned completely pale. He suddenly regretted his decision to curry favor with the royal family. Clearly, the Sky River royal family was colder and more heartless than he had imagined. However, for the sake of his family, the Feng family patriarch still knelt before King Chu and cried out, "King Chu, I'm innocent. It's not that we didn't try our best, but that demon Yi is too sinister. He actually took advantage of people's greed and wantonly scattered treasures to obstruct our pursuit. I'll redeem myself and mobilize the entire family's strength to go to River City and kill them." River City was the city where the Jiang family was located. There, the Jiang family's influence was the greatest. This was also the reason why Jiang Zhen had wanted to go to River City immediately after escaping the Imperial City. However, when she heard this, Madame Meng, who was standing behind King Chu, smiled bitterly. It's too late. I've interacted with Yi Fei a few times. He doesn't seem like an itinerant cultivator at all. Instead, he seems like the most outstanding disciple of a large family. If he was smart enough, he wouldn't go to River City. He won't go to Rivertown in the first place. He will only go to one place, and only that place can stop us from pursuing him. Mengru, are you talking about that place? Not good. If that kid escapes there, our Tianhe kingdom will really have a huge problem left behind. King Chu seemed to have thought of something, and his face suddenly became very ugly. Madame Meng smiled faintly. Her eyes flashed with hatred as she said, Uncle Wang Chu, please do not worry. Mengru has already thought of what you are worried about. Yi Fei not only killed King Qi, he also killed my younger brother, King Lu. I will not allow him to walk into that place alive. Send people to that place with treasures and make arrangements in advance. If Yi Fei goes there, I guarantee that he won't be able to return. As Madame Meng expected, the teleportation platform that Jiang Zhen opened didn't teleport everyone to Jiang City. Instead, it teleported them to another unfamiliar city. Yi Fei had seen the map of the Tianhe kingdom and knew that this city was called Moon City. It was a very remote city in the Tianhe kingdom. The strong clans did not even have a celestial venerable, only an earthly venerable. This was a city of independent cultivators in name only. Yi Fei looked at Jiang Zhen in astonishment. Senior Jiang, don't you want to return to the Jiang family? Jiang Zhen smiled bitterly when he heard this. His expression was gloomy as he shook his head. We can't go back. Since the royal family can set up an ambush in Wind City, then our Jiang family must have already met with disaster. I can go back alone, but I can't let you guys take the risk with me. Seeing that Jiang Zhen had finally thought it through, Yi Fei heaved a sigh of relief. He then looked at Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were beside him in a daze. In the imperial city they were mortal enemies, but now they were companions who had gone through hardships together. Yi Fei put aside his grudges and took the initiative to ask, Lin Chen, Lin Gui, what about you? Do you have any plans? Lin Gui was still in a daze. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the frightening scene in Wind City. On the other hand, Lin Chen had matured a lot after experiencing the destruction of the Lin family. In the face of Yi Fei's kindness, Lin Chen took the initiative to put aside his grudges and said, Yi Fei, in the imperial city, we were enemies. However, now that we are in the same boat, I won't hide it from you. Originally, we planned to hide in Wind City for a while before heading to the Bayou Nation. But now, it seems that we have to leave immediately. However, I hope that you and Senior Jiang Zhen can come with us. The Bayou Nation? Is that nation very powerful? Yi Fei asked, puzzled. Lin Chen had a strange expression. You don't know about the Bayou Nation? Ahem, let me tell you. At this moment, Jiang Zhen sorted out his emotions. He understood that Yi Fei was from the Earth realm and knew nothing about the Heavenly realm. He quickly told him about the Bayou Nation. Jiang Zhen said in a low voice, The Bayou Nation does not have a royal family. It is a chaotic land filled with feudal lords. It is said that this is because the founding emperor of the Bayou Nation did not have the heart to manage the affairs of the nation and did not have any children. Even the founding of the Bayou Nation was done on a whim by this Tao Lord. After that, he left Qingzhou and entered the most powerful and vast land in the heavenly realm. And the various troops and commanders who had followed Tao Lord Baiyun divided the Bayou Nation among themselves. They formed dozens of feudal lords of various sizes. Moreover, it is said that Tao Lord Baiyun is still alive and has broken through to become a monarch god in the divine continent. Therefore, these feudal lords and the surrounding nations did not dare to invade the Bayou Nation. They dared to casually attack the Bayou Nation and occupy its territory. As time passed, the entire Bayou nation became an ungoverned territory. It is also because of this that the Bayou nation has become the best place for countless warriors in the Qingzhou realm to hide from their enemies. 500 years ago, Old Man Qingyun entered the Bayou nation and established the Qingyun Pavilion. He even made an agreement with the other nations that no one could enter the Bayou nation without his permission. No one is allowed to enter the Bayou nation. This makes the Bayou nation the most special place in the entire Qingzhou. After explaining the basic situation of the Bayou nation, Jiang Zhen suddenly felt a little worried. It's just that the competition within the Bayou nation is very intense. It's very common for large factions to swallow small factions, and small factions to kill each other. Even most of the feudal lords who founded the nation have been wiped out. Without anyone to look after us, even if we escape to the Bayou nation, it will be difficult for us to develop. Senior Jiang, you don't have to worry about this. Our Lin family once had a life-and-death relationship with the leader of a certain faction in the Bayou nation. That is also a backup plan that we deliberately left behind. As long as we go there, we will definitely develop well. Moreover, we can recruit and buy horses from there and rebuild the Lin family and the Star Academy. The Divine Star Academy will return to the Tianhe Kingdom and take revenge. Lin Chen said confidently as he looked at Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen with burning eyes. Jiang Zhen was very tempted. Chapter 2065. Follow me. I know of a shortcut that will allow us to break through the border of the Tianhe nation and reach the Bayou nation faster. Lin Chen took out a map with the demeanor of a great general. However, Yi Fei suspected that Lin Chen's words were taught to him by the Lin family. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. For a family as powerful as the Lin family, how could they not prepare for a rainy day and leave a few backups? Obviously, Wind City and the Bayou Nation were backups that the Lin family had prepared in advance. Backups, just like the Divine Star fragment hidden in the Divine Star Academy. However, with Lin Chen's map, Yi Fei did not have to worry about being hunted down by the royal family. Reality proved that the map in Lin Chen's hand was indeed a backup plan prepared by the Lin family. Not only did the map mark out the secrets that the Lin family had hidden underground all these years. At the same time, there were many weapons, armors, and magnetite treasures hidden at every location. This was not as simple as a backup plan. It was clearly a stockpile of resources before the rebellion. Seeing these resources, Jiang Zhen was stunned for a moment. Then, he secretly told Yi Fei, the Lin family's loss was not unjustified. Not only did they bully their master, they even secretly prepared for a rebellion. However, thanks to the Lin family's preparations, we were able to continuously teleport and shake off the Tianhe royal family's troop. Yi Fei secretly shook his head. He did not care about the struggle for power. Now, he only cared about one thing, whether he could successfully enter the Bayou nation. During the teleportation, Lin Gui finally recovered from the trauma of his family's destruction. When he saw that Lin Chen wanted to bring outsiders into the Bayou nation, Lin Gui was puzzled. Lin Chen, are you crazy? Those with the surname Yi are not good people. In the land of termination, he purposely set me up and made me take the blame for him. He made such a huge scapegoat. In Wind City, he caused us to be exposed. Even Uncle Cheng and Uncle Rong died in battle. Speaking of Lin Cheng and Lin Rong, Lin Chen's eyes reddened. However, he was still the most outstanding descendant of the Lin clan, and was able to maintain his rationality. He comforted Lin Chen in a low voice. That was then, this is now. Back in the Imperial City, we were sworn enemies with the Divine Star Academy. It was normal for Yi Fei to mess with you. Yi Fei wanted to defeat him and humiliate him? Didn't Uncle Cheng also almost kill him? But now, things are different. The Lin clan and the Divine Star Academy have been destroyed by the royal clan. What grudge could be greater than this blood debt? There's a saying that Yi Fei was right about. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Since we have the same blood feud with Yi Fei, why can't we resolve our grudges with Yi Fei, and then use him to rope the Divine Star Academy into our Lin clan's war chariot? It was obvious that Lin Chen had given it a lot of thought before deciding to resolve his grudge with Yi Fei. When Lin Gui heard this, even though he was still disgusted, he reluctantly accepted the reality. 3 days later, after passing through dozens of secret transmission platforms built by the Lin family, Yi Fei and the other 3 finally left the Tianhe Kingdom and entered a new world. This was a huge mountain range filled with mountains and hills. Many of the mountains were tall and straight, reaching tens of thousands of meters into the clouds. Look, Brother Yi. Up ahead is the territory of the Baiyun Nation. Every mountain here represents one of the powers of the Baiyun Nation. The bigger and more majestic the mountain is, the more powerful that power is. Boom! As they spoke, a huge black warship flew out from the mountain range not far away. Looking at the warship, Yi Fei felt a sense of familiarity. He remembered that, in the Earth realm, he also had a similar black warship. It was owned by the sorcerer god. However, compared to the one in the heaven realm, his black warship paled in comparison in terms of material and appearance. Wolf head flag. Lin Chen, that must be the warship of the Blood Wolf gang. Lin Gui suddenly became excited. Lin Chen also jumped into the air excitedly and rushed towards the warship. Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen stayed where they were, looking at each other. Needless to say, just by looking at their excited faces, one could tell that the Blood Wolf gang was the Lin family's ally. Then, Yi Fei couldn't help but feel puzzled. Strange, the Blood Wolf gang came at the right time. Why did they appear when we just arrived? Could it be that someone from the Lin family notified them in advance? But that can't be right. The Lin family is all dead. Lin Chen and Lin Gui have been with us all this time. I didn't see them contacting anyone. Something is wrong. Lin Chen, Lin Gui, come back quickly. Yi Fei, you are too presumptuous. If it weren't for us, you would still be in the Tianhe Kingdom being hunted down by the royal family. What right do you have to order us around? Lin Gui had always been unhappy with Yi Fei. Most importantly, Yi Fei made him a scapegoat last time. Not only was he humiliated by King Chu, but he was also forced to pee in his pants in public to save his life. It was a stain that could never be washed away. He was already considered very cultured for not bringing up old scores with Yi Fei. How could he listen to Yi Fei's warning now? Even Lin Chen felt that Yi Fei was being too cautious. Yi Fei, you are being too cautious. This is the territory of the Baiyun Kingdom. The leader of the Blood Wolf gang was stranded in the Tianhe Kingdom many years ago. It was my grandfather who saved him. Now that we are in trouble, how could the Blood Wolf gang not take us in? Haha, nephew Gu, you are right about this. Your grandfather saved the life of the Blood Wolf gang. Now, I am here to repay his kindness. The 2 friends over there, please don't misunderstand. If you have anything to say, please come on board. Hearing Yi Fei's words, a tall and sturdy middle-aged man with a scar on his face walked out of the battleship. The middle-aged man was also a sovereign realm expert. He gave off an oppressive aura. This man was Xue Tianlang. The Blood Wolf gang was created by him with the help of the Lin family. He was the founder of the Blood Wolf gang. Blood Wolf was indeed grateful for this kindness. During festivals, he would specially send people to the Tianhe Kingdom to congratulate the Lin family. It was also because of this that Lin Chen and Lin Gui had a good impression of Blood Wolf. At this moment, Xue Tianlang had brought so many experts to welcome them and even spoke with such passion. Lin Gui and Lin Chen could not help but shed tears. They wailed, "Uncle Xue, my poor Lin family has more than 100,000 people, but only the 2 of us are left. Please take us in and take revenge for us in the future." Haha, well said. My 2 honorable nephews, please get up quickly. From now on, the Blood Wolf Gang will be your new home. And the two over there, you must be friends from the Divine Star Academy, right? I, Shwe, have long heard of your great names. Please come over for a chat. Blood Wolf waved his hand. He didn't even have the chance to refuse Yi Fei. Behind him, two Sovereign Realm experts came forward to welcome them warmly. Chapter 2066. What? There are Blood Wolf Gang members lying in ambush? Jiang Zhen was the first to be alarmed. Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were about to board the ship, were also shocked. Although they were usually unconvinced by Yi Fei, they still raised their guard at this critical moment. Lin Gui rolled his eyes and suddenly pointed at Yi Fei and scolded, "Yi Fei, don't you dare slander me! Sect leader Shwe, this Yi Fei likes to be paranoid. I'll go down now and give him a good scolding." "I'll go too." Lin Chen quickly walked over to Yi Fei. However, before they could get close, the scar on Blood Wolf's face suddenly became ferocious. "Go? Where do you think you're going? Your heads are worth 100,000 profound veins in the imperial family of the Sky River. Since you too have come since you're here, leave your heads behind." Lin Chen's face turned pale. Lin Gui was shocked and angry. He pointed at Blood Wolf and scolded, "Blood Wolf, you're ungrateful. If it weren't for the Lin family, you wouldn't be alive today. You wouldn't have been able to raise the Blood Wolf Gang in the Bayou Nation. How dare you betray the Lin family?" "That's right. Back then, your Lin family had indeed shown me some grace, but unfortunately, the one who helped me was Lin Xiong and not you. Now that that old bastard Lin Xiong is dead, why should I be courteous to you? If you know what's good for you, then obediently kneel to the side. If you don't, I'll kill you right now." Boom! Bloodthirsty Sky Wolf suddenly emitted a powerful aura of a ruler, but before he could do anything, not far away, Jiang Zhen, who had sensed the change in attitude of the Blood Wolf Gang, was the first to roar and attack. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. Xiao Chao had already sensed that something was amiss when he discovered a large number of heavenly venerable martial artists lying in ambush. However, he did not expect the royal family to act so quickly. They had infiltrated the Bayou Nation and bribed the Blood Wolf Gang, cutting off their last escape route. If I'm not wrong, the royal family already knew about the contact between the Blood Wolf Gang and the Lin family. But I'm curious. Did you betray the Lin family, or did the royal family bribe you? Yi Fei stared coldly at Blood Sky Wolf on the warship. Heavenly Blood Wolf also stared at Yi Fei mockingly. "You are very smart. No wonder Madame Meng told me to be careful of you. But unfortunately, you are just a celestial master. In front of me, you can only kneel down and wait for death." "Oh really?" Yi Fei's expression did not change. He suddenly ignored the hostile eyes of the Blood Wolf Gang members around him and strode towards Xue Tianlang. He suddenly scolded in a deep voice, "Xue Tianlang, shut your dog mouth. Do you know who I am? Do you know the power behind me? Do you know that I was once a celestial master?" In the Heavenly River Imperial City, I killed King Qi, who was a late-stage dominator, and King Lu, who was a mid-stage dominator. I even killed the Lord of Heaven's Heavenly Corpse Ghost General and cut off one of the arms of King Chu, who was a Lord of Heaven's Heavenly Corpse Ghost General. Boom! Yi Fei's words shocked everyone in the Blood River Gang. Even Blood Sky Wolf looked at Yi Fei in shock. He could not believe that a celestial master could do so many shocking things. To be able to become the leader of a gang, Blood Sky Wolf was not only strong, but also smart. He certainly knew what Yi Fei was hinting at. He was clearly warning him that there was a terrifying power behind Yi Fei. And this power was not something the Blood Wolf Gang could afford to offend. Celestial Blood Wolf cautiously ordered his men to stop fighting with Jiang Zhen. At the same time, he stared at Lin Chen and Lin Gui with ferocious eyes and asked, Is what that kid said true? Did he really do so many things? It's true, it's absolutely true. Everyone in the Heavenly River Empire knows what demon Yi has done. If we say anything false, we will die a horrible death. Lin Chun and Lin Gui quickly nodded. Although they did not see it with their own eyes, they were smart people. They knew how to cooperate at this time. Yi Fei. Hearing this, Blood Sky Wolf's expression became even uglier. He thought to himself, this brat surnamed Yi is really strange. The Heavenly River Imperial family seems to be more afraid of him than the Lin family and the Divine Star Academy. This is obviously not normal. Could it be that there is a powerful force behind this brat? A powerful force behind him? Not paying attention to the bewildered Blood Wolf gang members, Yi Fei saw that Blood Sky Wolf didn't speak, so he immediately scolded Blood Sky Wolf. Blood Sky Wolf, if you have the guts, then kill me today. But the force behind me will not let you go. Even if you hide in the Clear Cloud Pavilion, you will also die. There is no doubt that you will die. Boom. When Yi Fei spoke, he held his head high and took a step forward. This step caused the Blood Wolf gang members to become even more restless. Even the hegemon of the Blood Wolf gang was muttering to himself. Gang Lord, he said to Blood Wolf. Not even the hegemon was able to detect our ambush, but he saw through it with a single glance. Also, he is a heavenly venerable, but he dares to shout and scold us. Is he crazy? Or does he really have someone behind him? Yes, 100,000 Xian veins are precious, but we can't be used by the Sky River Kingdom. The leaders spoke one after another, which made Blood Sky Wolf waver even more. Blood Sky Wolf looked at Yi Fei again and found that Yi Fei was now within 100 meters of him. This range was enough for a leader to kill a heavenly venerable easily. Either Yi Fei was not afraid of death, or Yi Fei was really fearless. Brat, you have guts. How dare a heavenly venerable speak to me like this? Tell me, what force is behind you? Who is this big shot? Tell me and I will see if I can afford to offend him. Are you afraid of Renzu? Yi Fei's expression suddenly became serious, but before Blood Sky Wolf could react, Yi Fei suddenly smiled honestly. Of course, that's impossible. The veins on Blood Sky Wolf's forehead bulged as he shouted fiercely, Brat, I'll give you one last chance. Tell me who's behind you. I can tell you who's behind me, but you have to let Lin Chun and Lin Gui go first. Yi Fei smiled faintly. Seeing that Xue Tianlang was a little hesitant, he smiled again and said, Xue Tianlang, your people are everywhere. Are you afraid that we will run away? Blood Sky Wolf thought about it and agreed. He simply waved his hand and released Lin Chun and Lin Gui. Then he stared coldly at Yi Fei and said, Brat, you can tell me now. Then listen carefully. The force behind me is Sword Palace. If you don't want to die, get out of the way. A small Blood Wolf gang wants to go against Sword Palace? What a joke. Yi Fei pretended to be disdainful and arrogant. Chapter 2067. That's because you're ignorant. Sword Palace is the #1 power in the Divine Continent. Now that you've provoked Sword Palace, even if all the powers in the Bayou Nation combined, they wouldn't be able to withstand the wrath of Sword Palace, let alone the Blood Wolf gang. Yi Fei continued to be arrogant. Of course, what he said wasn't entirely false. After all, the Sword Palace had the 9th Heaven Sword Master, a Renzu Realm Master. They were definitely a major power in the Divine Continent. However, Yi Fei wasn't sure where the Sword Palace ranked in the Divine Continent. Hearing this, Sky Blood Wolf was stunned. He looked at Yi Fei in disbelief. What? You used the power of the Divine Continent to come to Qingzhou and show off? Brat, I think you're tired of living. You must be tired of living. Yi Fei felt that something was wrong. The Sword Palace was a major power in the Divine Continent. That was what the Ninth Heaven Sword Master told him. Why wasn't the Blood Wolf gang scared? What's the problem? Yi Fei couldn't help but look at Jiang Zhen. Jiang Zhen looked at Yi Fei with tears in his eyes. Yi Fei, there's a big problem. Do you know how far Qingzhou is from the Divine Continent? Even if we were dominators, we would have to fly for 10 years to reach the Divine Continent. With such a long distance, by the time the Sword Palace gets the news, we'll be dead. What? The Divine Continent and Qingzhou are so far apart. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly. It was his first time showing off in the heavenly realm, and he failed. This was too embarrassing. Of course, this was also because he didn't know much about the heavenly realm. If he had known the terrifying distance between Qingzhou and the Divine Continent, Yi Fei wouldn't have used the Sword Palace's name to scare people here. After all, distant water could not quench a nearby fire. No matter how powerful the Sword Palace was in the Divine Land, it could not affect Qingzhou. Hearing that the power Yi Fei mentioned was actually so far away from Qingzhou, Lin Chen and Lin Gui's faces turned pale. They looked at Yi Fei and complained, "Demon Yi, we've really been killed by you this time. What should we do now?" "What else can we do? The paper tiger has been exposed. If we don't run, are we waiting to be surrounded and beaten to death by the Blood Wolf gang? The situation is tense, let's run." Boom! While they were talking, Yi Fei was the first to turn and run. In the blink of an eye, he had run a few thousand meters away. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were stunned. What made them even more stunned was that Jiang Zhen, who had always been serious, was not slow at all. In an instant, he had also run a large distance. In the end, only Lin Chen and Lin Gui were left. They could only rely on their parents to give them 2 less legs. Even if they used all their strength, they could not catch up with Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen. Instead, the leader of the Blood Wolf gang roared furiously behind them. It was the first time that Blood Wolf, the gang leader, hated someone so much. He was almost frightened by a mere celestial master. If news of this spread, he would definitely become the laughing stock of all the forces in the Baiyun nation. Naturally, the Crimson Sky Wolf was enraged. He was so angry that his entire body emitted a bloody light. Then, the light turned into countless Crimson Sky Wolves. They howled at the sky and pounced on Yi Fei. "Brat, how dare you trick me? If I don't tear you to pieces today, I'm not Blood Wolf. Kill them all, dead or alive." Roar. Along with Blood Sky Wolf's roar, a large number of fierce wolf howls suddenly came from the nearby forest. Then, hundreds of Blood Wolf gang members, who were hiding in ambush, rushed towards Yi Fei like a tide. Lin Gui, who was the last to escape, let out a blood-curdling scream. One of the Blood Wolf gang's leaders had thrown out a flurry of silver fire needles. One of the needles had pierced Lin Gui's buttock. If Jiang Zhen hadn't been soft-hearted and quickly pulled Lin Gui back, that flurry of needles would have been enough to kill Lin Gui. Lin Gui's life. With the Blood Wolf gang's sudden betrayal and Lin Gui's serious injury, Lin Chen could no longer maintain his composure. He looked at Yi Fei in fear and roared, "Yi Fei, we've really been screwed by you this time. Instead of running to a place with fewer people, you actually led us to a place with the most people. Idiot! There are many people here, but there are no dominators. There are fewer people in other places, but there are dominators hidden in other places. Would you rather face 20 Empyreans or 1 dominator?" Yi Fei sneered. It had to be said that Blood Wolf was a very smart person. The Blood Wolf gang's ambush was well arranged, but they also had a shortcoming. The Blood Wolf gang was only a rank 6 organization. Like Wind City's Feng family, the Blood Wolf gang only had 15 to 16 dominators. Excluding the dominators guarding the Blood Wolf gang, there were still 7 or 8 dominators following Blood Wolf. There were also 10 dominators. The remaining 3 dominators could only lie in ambush in 3 different directions between the mountains. The last direction seemed to have the most people, but because there were no dominators hiding, It was the weakest ambush. From the beginning, Yi Fei did not expect the Sword Palace to scare the Blood Wolf gang. He only did that to buy time and secretly let Xiao Chao find the Dominators. Not good, this kid is indeed strange. How did he know that I did not arrange for any Dominators to guard the area? Blood Wolf's expression changed when he saw the direction Yi Fei was escaping. He realized that he had underestimated Yi Fei. If I had known that this kid was so strange, I would have sent all the Dominators here. I would have completely blocked their escape route. The scar on Blood Wolf's face turned green with regret. The only thing he could do now was to lead all the Dominators in pursuit. He hoped that he could kill Yi Fei before Yi Fei escaped to the real Baiyu Nation. Yi Fei, you guys go first. I will stay behind to cover the retreat. When Jiang Zhen led Yi Fei and the others to break through the defensive formation formed by the Blood Wolf gang's heavenly venerables, he suddenly made a decision to risk his life. After understanding that if everyone fled together, they would only be captured by the Blood Wolf gang, Jiang Zhen resolutely turned around and faced the 13 sovereigns who were rushing over from all directions. Expert. Yi Fei's heart trembled. He thought of the Dominators of the Divine Star Academy who had stayed behind to cover the retreat. He thought of Lin Qing and Lin Rong who had self-destructed in Wind City. Could it be? No, Senior Jiang, you can't do this. It wasn't easy for us to escape from the Tianhe Nation. You can't die. Don't worry, I won't die. Before I avenge Senior Brother Dutian, before I collect the blood debt of the Divine Star Academy from the Tianhe royal family, I, Jiang Zhen, will definitely not die. Blood Wolf Gang, I will let you know the strength of the Dominators of the Divine Star Academy. Boom! Jiang Zhen's body suddenly exploded with terrifying thunder and lightning. Then, a 5-colored divine bell as large as a mountain fell from the sky. Not only did it trap Jiang Zhen, but it also trapped the bloodthirsty wolf and the 8 sovereigns who had gathered with the bloodthirsty wolf inside. Chapter 2068. Let's go. Yi Fei knew that no matter how strong Jiang Zhen was, he could only hold off the group of Dominators from the Blood Wolf gang for a short period of time. What he needed to do now was to break out of the encirclement as soon as possible and find a safe place to wait for Jiang Zhen. However, Yi Fei had no intention of leaving the Baiyu Nation. After breaking out of the encirclement, he immediately rushed towards the depths of the Baiyu Nation as fast as he could. This puzzled Lin Gui. Yi Fei, are you crazy? We are being hunted down by the Blood Wolf gang. If we enter the Baiyu Nation now, wouldn't we be walking right into their trap? Lin Gui, you are wrong. Brother Ye's choice is correct. If the royal family can bribe the Blood Wolf gang, they must be near the Baiyu Nation, waiting for us to escape. If we leave the Baiyu Nation now, only death awaits us. If we rush in, we might have a chance of survival, Lin Chen said in a low voice. Yi Fei looked at Lin Chen in surprise. Looks like you are not too stupid. You know more about the Baiyu Nation than I do. Tell me, what should we do to find a safe place in the Baiyu Nation? The 5 Thunders divine clock behind them was ringing even more violently. It was obvious that Jiang Zhen could not hold on any longer. He let out a long whistle to remind Yi Fei and the rest that he was preparing to break out of the encirclement. This made Lin Gui and Lin Chen's expressions change. Lin Chen didn't dare to hesitate and immediately spilled everything he knew. Actually, before coming to the Baiyu Nation, we did not expect the Blood Wolf gang to be bribed by the royal family. However, we were prepared for the possibility that the Blood Wolf gang would turn against us and refuse to take us in. Therefore, our Lin family had a backup plan, which was to go to the Clear Cloud Pavilion and apply to form a new force in the Baiyu Nation. Force. Hearing this, Yi Fei's eyes also lit up. Being able to establish their own forces was much better than relying on others. He could not help but grumble, "Since we can establish our own forces, why didn't you say so earlier? You even caused Senior Jiang to be surrounded." However, Yi Fei wasn't particularly worried about Jiang Zhen's safety. Firstly, the God Star Academy was the strongest in the sovereign realm. Jiang Zhen could even take on 10 ordinary sovereigns. Secondly, Jiang Zhen had only blocked 8 Blood Wolf Gang rulers. The remaining 3 Blood Wolf Gang rulers hadn't participated in the encirclement at all. Under the furious order of Bloody Sky Wolf, they all chased after Yi Fei. Therefore, as long as there were no more than 10 sovereigns surrounding Jiang Zhen, there was no chance of him dying. Yi Fei no longer held back. He and Lin Chen each grabbed the heavily injured Lin Gui and unleashed all of their heavenly venerate dark force, rushing towards the depths of the Baiyun nation. As for the injured Lin Gui, he didn't care about the flying needles that were still stuck in his buttocks that were bleeding as he desperately urged his profound energy to charge forward. At the same time, Lin Chen tossed a map into Lin Gui's hand. "Quick, we'll take you and run. Show us the way. If the sovereigns catch up, we'll be finished. Lin Chen, we'll have to see if you're willing to throw away your treasures." Yi Fei looked deeply at Lin Chen. Lin Chen's expression instantly turned ugly. He naturally understood what Yi Fei meant. Yi Fei was clearly asking him to throw away his treasures to save his life. Back in Wind City, Yi Fei had also used this method to create chaos in Wind City. That was how they had managed to escape from the Feng family sovereigns who were chasing after them. Seeing Lin Chen's obvious hesitation and reluctance to part with his treasures, Yi Fei immediately shouted, "If you don't even have your life, what's the point of keeping your treasures?" Boom! Yi Fei's words finally woke Lin Chen up. Lin Chen also became resolute. Then, with tears streaming down his face, Lin Chen untied the space belts on his body and opened up a huge hole. Then, a large amount of armor and treasures rushed out of the hole like a tidal wave. The entire mountain was filled with the radiance of all kinds of treasures. This scene once again made Xiao Chao's heart ache. The dragon turtle was originally squatting in a corner and staring at the black vat that had been split into 2 halves. However, when it saw Lin Chen waste the black rocks, the dragon turtle was suddenly enlightened. The dragon turtle was suddenly enlightened. It actually treated the 2 halves of the black jar as 2 huge black ladles. It grabbed one with its claws and rushed out of the space of the beast mark to scoop up the black rocks that were flying all over the sky. Realizing that the effect was not bad, the dragon turtle immediately walked out of the shadow of the black vat and became complacent again. Yi Fei and Xiao Chao covered their faces and could not bear to look at it. Lin Chen and Lin Gui, the 2 brothers, were so shocked by the sudden appearance of the dragon turtle that they almost threw away the space belts in their hands. However, this resolute action of abandoning the treasures still had a huge effect. When they saw all kinds of treasures flying all over the sky, the orderly Blood Wolf gang members who were just about to chase after them were instantly thrown into chaos. Many of them had greedy expressions as they went around picking up the treasures. Even the 3 dominators who were chasing after them knew that Yi Fei was deliberately creating chaos to slow them down. However, they could not stop their subordinates from crazily snatching the treasures on the ground. Especially the treasures that the Lin family had accumulated over thousands of years. Some of the treasures were even coveted by the dominators. Red Heart Fever. In addition, Blood Sky Wolf was trapped in the 5 Thunders Divine Clock and could not escape for the time being. He could not discover their little trick. In the end, the 3 dominators of the Blood Wolf gang could not resist the temptation of the treasures. They slowed down their pursuit and frantically collected the treasures that Lin Chen threw out. This also allowed Yi Fei to gain more time to go to the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Finally, just as Lin Chen was about to throw away all the treasures on him, Lin Gui suddenly pointed at a mountain peak not far away and shouted, "Clear Cloud Pavilion, that's the Clear Cloud Pavilion." What, Clear Cloud Pavilion? Not good, they are actually planning to enter the Clear Cloud Pavilion. We must not let them enter, kill them. Boom! The three dominators of the Blood Wolf gang were originally chasing after them leisurely, hoping to force Lin Chen to cough up more of the Lin family's treasures. However, when they saw that Yi Fei was planning to enter the Clear Cloud Pavilion, they no longer dared to be complacent. Instead, they unleashed all their dominator strength in an attempt to catch up and stop them. Yi Fei, you guys go in first, I'll bring up the rear. Yi Fei also gritted his teeth. Suddenly, he slung his black iron heavy sword over his shoulder and recalled the dragon turtle. Then, he stopped in midair and waited for the three sovereigns to charge over. At this point, they were less than a kilometer away from the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Lin Gui and Lin Chen did not expect that Yi Fei would take the initiative to stay behind to bring up the rear. While they were touched and ashamed, they had no choice but to grab this last chance and rush into the mountain peak where the Clear Cloud Pavilion was located. Yi Fei, thank you! Lin Chen's grateful voice came from behind. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.